Chapter 421. Under the careful care of Luan Yu, 1 or 2 golden resilience pills in Lu Ping's golden house matured every 3 years. Lu Ping used all of them to refine golden resilience pills for himself. Lu Ping could feel that even without the support of spiritual core, his body could compete with a low-level magic tool. However, as Lu Ping's cultivation base advanced to the core forging realm, the golden resilience pellet's strengthening effect was still there, but it wasn't as obvious anymore. The appearance of the bone forging pellet made Lu Ping's eyes light up. Unfortunately, each cultivator could only consume 3 bone forging pellets. Furthermore, the bone forging pellet was very different from other medicinal pellets. The bone forging pellet could only be refined once per cauldron. Success was success, failure was failure. However, this also made Lu Ping's eyes light up. This method was suitable for spirit water nourishing pills. Spirit water nourishing pills could only be refined once per furnace. Regardless of whether it was a blood refining stage pill or a transcendent stage pill, a furnace of spirit herbs could only guarantee 1 pill. However, this way, the success rate of refining had increased a lot. In the end, spirit water nourishing pills were suitable for precious pills with low success rates. This was the best way to refine the bone forging pill. In fact, Lu Ping had a natural treasure that could strengthen the body. It was even more effective than the bone forging pill. It was the rank 9 white jade lotus root that he found in the 100 Flowers land in the Fallen Mystery Land. This lotus root had 9 segments, and each segment was a top-grade treasure for refining the body. Unfortunately, the level of the lotus root was too high. At the moment, Lu Ping was not confident that he could refine it into a body-strengthening pill. Lu Ping put away the pill recipes. He knew that after the various sects exchanged information, it was time for the main event of this gathering. It was time for the alchemy masters and grandmasters to show their true strength. These things were not considered as their trump cards. However, this did not prevent Lu Ping from asking some questions. Senior Liao, does your family have life essence pills that are more than 5 years old? I, Jinling, am willing to pay a high price for them and will keep this a secret for your family. Liao Ruinjia was a little stunned as he looked at Lu Ping's serious expression. After a moment, he said with a smile, Little friend Lu, you're looking for the essence longevity elixir for your esteemed sect's old ancestor Tian Kong, right? Huh! Lu Ping's heart tightened as he thought to himself that even the Liao clan knew about junior uncle Tian Kang's group. But then, he felt relieved. Perhaps Jinling's sect didn't hide forefather Tian Kang's matter from the North Sea cultivators. Sure enough, Liao Ruinjia looked at Lu Ping, who suddenly became vigilant, and said with a smile, Little friend, I'm afraid you don't know this, but your sect has already exchanged for a 3-year life essence pill from my Liao family. For the sake of Tiankong Laozu, your sect has been searching for life essence pills and pill recipes in the entire North Sea for decades. This is no secret in the North Sea. Now your sect's Tianlu Laozu probably has the largest collection of life essence pill recipes in the North Sea. In the past, my Liao family also had a 3-year life essence pill, but Tianlu Laozu personally came to exchange for it with some heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Now I'm afraid it will be very difficult to find another life essence pill in the North Sea that Jinling doesn't have. Lu Ping saw that Liao Ruinjia was so familiar with this matter, so he was obviously not lying. Originally, Lu Ping just wanted to give it a try, but he didn't expect that the Liao family really did have life essence pills. Unfortunately, Jinling had already exchanged for it. Although Lu Ping felt a bit regretful, his interest in the Liao family grew a bit more. Life essence pills were not something ordinary families could have. In the cultivation world of the North Sea, a 3-year life essence pill was considered a rare treasure. At the very least, only the great clans like the 10 great sects could have it. Although the Liao family itself was an alchemy family, it could still have a life essence pill as an inheritance. This showed that this family was quite extraordinary. In addition, Liao Ruinjia's words revealed a sense of familiarity with the Central Plains. This made Lu Ping even more interested in the Liao family. Does Senior Liao know of any other family in the East Sea that has this life essence pill? Lu Ping asked with a frown. From Liao Ruinjia's words, Lu Ping could tell that Jinling had been collecting life essence pill recipes for a long time. Moreover, Jinling had probably collected almost all the life essence pill recipes in the North Sea. Sure enough, Liao Ruinjia signaled Lu Ping with his eyes and said with a wry smile, "I'm afraid only this family still has life essence pill recipes that you, Jinling, haven't collected yet." Lu Ping turned around and saw Tianlu Laozu walking towards Xian Ling Sec's Dao Li Laozu. The two Laozus seemed to be discussing something. Not long after, Tianlu Laozu angrily left in a hurry. Dao Li Laozu looked at Tianlu Laozu's back with a cold smile on his face. Liao Ruinjia pondered for a moment, and briefly explained to Lu Ping. "The matter of your sect's Tiancong Laozu seems to be related to the grudge between your sect and Xian Ling sect. Xian Ling sect absolutely does not want Tiancong Laozu to live for a few more years." Of course, Lu Ping knew about this, but he still said, "Thank you for your advice, Senior Liao." Liao Ruinjia smiled embarrassedly and said, "Actually, the old man also came with a request." Lu Ping felt a little strange, but he still replied cautiously, "Senior is too polite. If Senior has any request, as long as it is within Junior's ability, I will do my best." Liao Ruinjia sternly said, "This old man has also heard about your esteemed sect's Taoist Xian senator before today. There were many alchemists in the Northern Seas alchemy world who scoffed at the spirit water pill nurturing technique. However, my Liao clan knows that this alchemy technique truly exists. Today, I wish to exchange for a spirit water vein nurturing pill that can cure Taoist Xian Senior. Oh!" Lu Ping disapprovingly took out a small jade crystal box from his storage ring. Ever since Lu Ping used the Spirit Water Meridian Incubating Pill to save spiritual master Xianxin from the brink of collapse, Jinling had attached great importance to it. Fornax Laozu directly threw a bag of spiritual herbs to Lu Ping and asked him to refine 10 pills first. What kind of person was Lu Ping? Naturally, he wouldn't hand over as many pills as he could refine. Therefore, other than the 10 pills he gave to Fornax Laozu, Lu Ping kept 3 for himself. Fornax Laozu didn't even ask. Liao Ruinjia looked at the jade crystal box in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping used a see-through technique, and Liao Ruinjia could see the spirit water meridian incubating pill through the surface of the jade crystal box. A trace of joy immediately appeared on his face. However, when he saw the disapproving expression on Lu Ping's face, he hesitated for a moment and said to Lu Ping, "Little friend, I'm afraid you still don't know the value of the spirit water meridian incubating pill, right?" Lu Ping was startled. "What do you mean, Senior?" "After your esteemed sect's Taoist master Xianxin, in recent years, several core forging enlightened masters from various sects in the North Sea were ambushed by the demon clan. Although a few of them were lucky enough to escape, they also lost all of their blood vessels and lost all of their cultivation. 3 of them died when their cultivation collapsed and their lifespans ran out. 4 of them barely managed to stay alive, but they were struggling at death's door and didn't have many days left. The demon clan's strange divine ability has already caused fear in the hearts of cultivators from various sections. After all, it's normal to have casualties when fighting against demon clan cultivators. But now, once they are injured, their cultivation will be destroyed. How can this not make the cultivators of the various sects feel restrained?" Hearing Liao Ruinjia's words, Lu Ping was puzzled. If that's the case, our sect's Uncle Master Xianxin's cultivation should have been restored long ago. The sects should have already known about it. Why do so many people seem to not agree with the spiritual water pill incubating technique at the beginning? Some of them don't even know about it. Liao Ruinjia smiled helplessly. Taoist Master Xianxin was the only late-stage core forging cultivator who survived the series of ambushes from the demon clan. Most of the North Seas alchemists thought that it was because Taoist Master Xianxin's late-stage alchemy cultivation was so high that he didn't suffer any injuries. It wasn't because of the miraculous effect of the spiritual water pill incubating technique. Lu Ping was enlightened. So that's how it is. But Senior Liao, how much do you think this pill is worth? This thing is a treasure. A voice interrupted. Lu Ping looked at the speaker in surprise. It was a middle-aged cultivator with an imposing appearance. Brother AI, why did you also take a fancy to this spiritual water pill incubating technique? Liao Ruinjia couldn't help but ask. The middle-aged cultivator nodded at Liao Ruinjia and smiled at Lu Ping. Lu Xiaoyu, I'm AI Zhong. AI Buotao is my nephew. Lu Ping thought of AI Buotao's cross-dressing girl, but the middle-aged cultivator didn't mention it. Lu Ping hurriedly cupped his hands. So it's Senior AI. How is Brother AI Buotao? AI Zhong smiled bitterly. AI Zhong smiled wryly and said, He's not doing too well. In recent years, little friend Lu and the others have made remarkable achievements in the North Sea. That nephew of mine is also someone who refuses to admit defeat. A few days ago, he also went to fight the demon race with his life, but he almost lost his life. He was hit by the strange magic of the demon race that Brother Liao mentioned. Lu Ping was startled. How is Brother AI now? AI Zhong smiled bitterly. Fortunately, this kid is still young and doesn't have to worry about his lifespan running out. However, his cultivation is almost crippled and he has no spirit. His life is no different from being dead. Originally, I was skeptical about the spiritual water pill incubating technique. This time, I came to the gathering to ask Fornax Laozi for help, but I didn't expect to run into Lu Xiaoyu. It seems that the spiritual water pill incubating technique came from Lu Xiaoyu. Lu Xiaoyu can't just watch him die. Lu Ping couldn't care less about the joke in spiritual master AI Zhong's last sentence. Lu Ping had worked with the AI siblings several times and had a good relationship. In addition, the AI family was also a major force in the North Sea with Fa Xian Laozu overseeing it. Making friends with such a powerful force was certainly something the seniors of the sect would like to see. Lu Ping quickly took out another box from his interspatial ring and said, This water spirit meridian nourishing pellet isn't easy to concoct, so I don't have many with me. Senior AI, please take this one. Saving Brother AI is more important. AI Zhong's expression relaxed when he saw Lu Ping handing him the crystal box. His previous helpless expression was gone. Lu Xiaoyu is indeed impatient. However, with little friend's help, there's no need to be anxious. That kid has always been proud and arrogant. This can be considered a lesson for him to learn that there's always someone better out there. Since he won't die for the time being, it's better to let him live for a few more days to learn. Chapter 422. From Liao Ruinjia, Lu Ping had obtained enough spiritual herbs to concoct 3 batches of meridian-nourishing pills, and from AI Zhong, he obtained 18 high-grade spiritual stones. For a pill that could restore a core forging realm cultivator's cultivation, it was equivalent to giving it away for free. Liao Ruinjia and AI Zhong were not fools. In the alchemy world, there was no reason for them to take the initiative to express their goodwill to Lu Ping. However, both of them had their own plans, and Lu Ping naturally had his own plans. Jinling's rise was already a foregone conclusion. At this time, they needed the support of allies. Lu Ping bid farewell to the two and walked to the other side. Only then did he notice Fornax Laozu nodding at him with appreciation. His originally gloomy expression also became much better. Obviously, he had seen the transaction between Lu Ping and the Liao and AI clan. After Lu Ping left, AI Zhong, who had obtained the meridian nourishing pills, was in a good mood. He turned to Liao Rengjia and said, Brother Liao, what good stuff do you have? Let me have a look. The Liao clan's alchemy skills are passed down from generation to generation. My AI clan cannot be compared to them. Liao Rengjia smiled faintly and said, Brother AI must be joking. Having said that, he handed over the jade slip that he had given to Lu Ping previously. However, when he took out the jade slip, his finger pressed on it without anyone noticing. The bone-forging pill recorded at the end of the jade slip was erased. This kind of private exchange between various alchemy masters was carried out quite quickly. In just half a day's time, it was completed. Lu Ping followed Fornax Laozu into the Snow Mist Palace. Along the way, Fornax Laozu's expression was solemn, and he did not speak a word. Lu Ping also did not speak, only following behind them. Inside the Snow Mist Palace, Lu Ping followed Fornax Laozu into the palace. Tian Shui Laozu noticed that Lu Ping did not have a fierce expression like before. Instead, he looked at Fornax Laozu and asked, "How was it? What did Xianling sect's Dao Li say?" Fornax Laozu shook his head and said, "Dao Li is considered to have a good temper in Xianling sect. However, when it comes to longevity pills, he immediately turned hostile with me. There's no room for discussion." This time, Tian Shui Laozu surprisingly did not get angry. Instead, she nodded her head and said, "This is also within my expectations. After all, that year's matter was too big. Xianling sect directly lost to Laozu, causing the two sects to be in a stalemate. Now, our sect has produced two Laozu, while Xianling sect only has one Laozu. Furthermore, he was continuously defeated by those two enemies. Now, if the two sects were to have a life-and-death battle, I'm afraid that Xianling sect might not be our sect's opponent. Right now, they can't wait for junior brother Tiankong to die as soon as possible, so as to reduce our sect's strength." Perhaps it was because Lu Ping had helped Jinling gain face in the North Sea Palace this morning, and even ruthlessly ridiculed Wei Shiren, the new alchemist grandmaster. Thus, Tian Shui Laozu's impression of Lu Ping had improved a lot. When she reminded Jiang Tianlin and Lu Tianling again, she no longer called Lu Ping crazy lass and bastard brat. So what? Don't forget that time when our sect and Xianling sect had just taken back the Sunrise Island's medium-sized spiritual mine from the demon race. It had fallen into Xianling sect's hands. Although we had defeated Xianling sect, it could still be considered as an alliance. Lu Ping's face was expressionless, but his ears were perked up. He did not miss a single word that the two Laozus had said. The fact that the two Laozus did not hide anything during their conversation was already a testament to Lu Ping's current status. However, this did not mean that Lu Ping could ask about some of the sect's secrets. These things could only be collected by Lu Ping bit by bit, accumulated, organized, and judged. The two Laozus would not answer some questions for you, as they were afraid that your first impression would be the strongest and affect your judgment. When Tianlu Laozu heard Tian Shui Laozu's words, a look of hatred appeared on his face as he said, "That's right. However, even if senior brother Tian Kong has unfortunately fallen, Tianlin and the other two are not to be trifled with. When they were in the late core forging stage, they were able to kill Dao Kong together, and now they are able to fight against Dao Yin, who is in the mid-Dharma stage. In the end, it still ended in a draw. It's a pity that senior brother Tian Kong is only one step away from the mid-Dharma stage. As long as he crosses this threshold, his lifespan will increase by 200 years, and our sect will definitely be able to suppress Xianling's sect in all aspects. However, it just so happened that before he could advance to the mid-Dharma stage, his lifespan was about to run out." Tian Shui Laozu shook her head and said, "Junior brother Tianlu, you have not advanced to the mid-Dharma stage, so you don't know the difference between the early and mid-Dharma stage. Don't think that those two little enemies might be able to go further than me, or even senior brother Tian Xiang in the future. However, how many years has it been since they advanced to the Dharma stage? Even if they joined forces, they might not be able to defeat Dao Yin. At most, they would be like Tian Fan and I in the past, desperately trying to protect ourselves from that old man Dao Xing's attacks. Back then, junior brother Tian Kong was only a few years behind Dao Yin, so he was one step slower in advancing to the mid-Dharma stage. If junior brother Tian Kong was also a mid-Dharma stage adept at that time, how would Dao Yin be able to force him to the point where he had to use his life force? The two Laozus sighed helplessly. They were both a little worried. Lu Ping opened his mouth and was about to say something, but unexpectedly, Tianlu Laozu saw his expression and asked, "What did you talk about with the two rascals from the Liao and Ai families today?" Liao Ruinjia and Ai Zhong were both adepts who had been cultivating for 300 to 400 years. In the North Sea, they were famous alchemy masters. However, in the eyes of Tianlu Laozu, they were all juniors. After all, once a practitioner advanced to the early Dharma stage, they would have a lifespan of at least 8 to 1,000 years. With Tianlu Laozu's years of cultivation and status, It was obvious that he was treating the two of them differently when he acted like an elder. Lu Ping did not hesitate and told them the details of the deal he had with the two of them. When Tianlu Laozu heard about the bone-forging pill, he seemed to be deep in thought. He said, "From the refining style of this pill, it really has the style of Middle-earth. Could it be that the Liao family really has some connection with Middle-earth?" Tian Shui Laozu's mouth twitched. How could there be a lack of adepts or clans from Middle-earth who fled overseas to avoid calamity? What's there to fuss about? Back then, didn't the founder of our sect, Laozu, also come from Middle-earth? However, you really dare to accept any kind of benefit. At that girl Tianling's Dharma idol gathering, you gave 3,000-year-old spirit monster peaches as a birthday gift in front of everyone, and that Liao Ruinjia immediately gave you a bone-forging Dan's pill recipe. He really doesn't hide his good intentions. Tianlu Laozu pondered and said, "Perhaps this is the Liao family's brilliance." Without Dharma idol Laozu overseeing, the Liao family still managed to survive for over 1,000 years in the Northern Sea. Naturally, the Liao family has its own outstanding points. Tian Shui Laozu felt a little heartache. Pointing at Lu Ping's nose, he asked, "Brat, to think that your teacher is called Lu Tianling. You don't even know how to extort money. Do you know how much your spiritual water meridian nourishing pill is worth? Just 3 sets of spiritual herbs and 18 high-grade spiritual stones for 2 of your pills. In the future, when your cultivation rises, how would we old fellows dare to let you be the head of the Jinling family? Wouldn't you squander away all the inheritance that has been passed down for over 10,000 years?" When Tian Shui Laozu saw Lu Ping's silly smile, she showed a distressed expression as she started to calculate for him. This spiritual water meridian nourishing pill technique, in the entire Northern Sea, only you know how to do it, right? You're the only one who knows how to cure the demon race's injuries that can break a cultivator's meridians, right? Furthermore, in this period of time, the demon race frequently injured cultivators. Among the demon race cultivators, there are quite a number of them who have grasped this strange divine ability, right? What does a core forging cultivator's cultivation mean to a sect or a family? Is it something that can be exchanged for with 18 high-grade spiritual stones? Lu Ping asked carefully. Then how many items do you want to exchange for it? Tian Shui Laozu didn't answer Lu Ping's question. Instead, she looked at Tianlu Laozu and asked, "Junior brother Tianlu, tomorrow is the time for the treasure exchange, right? Why don't you release 1 or 2 spiritual water meridian nourishing pills? The starting price for each pill is at least 1 natural oddity." Lu Ping's silly smile froze. This Laozu was truly valiant. The moment he opened his mouth, 1 natural oddity, and that was just the starting price. Frankly speaking, the cost of concocting the spiritual water meridian nourishing pill wasn't much different from an ordinary late-stage core forging pill. It was just that using spiritual water to concoct the pill was too unimaginable. Furthermore, the effect of the pill was so effective that it gave Tian Shui Laozu the opportunity to ask for an exorbitant price. Lu Ping saw that even Tianlu Laozu's mouth twitched when he heard Tian Shui Laozu's price. However, after thinking about it, he nodded his head without any hesitation. This caused Lu Ping to feel heartache for the 2 spiritual water meridian nourishing pills that he had to exchange today. In fact, what Tian Shui Laozu said wasn't wrong at all. If they really met a late-stage core forging cultivator like Taoist Xianxin, it would be worth it for a sect to exchange a spiritual water meridian nourishing pill for a spiritual water meridian nourishing pill. However, if it really reached that stage, Jinling's sect would definitely be suppressed by the cultivators of the Northern Sea. In the end, Tianlu Laozu still spoke a few good words for Lu Ping. No matter what, the 2 sects took the initiative to express their goodwill, and little brat Lu Ping did them a favor. This is ultimately a good thing for our sect. After all, the Liao clan has over 1,000 years of alchemy heritage. They are not to be trifled with. They have some connections in the Northern Sea. As for the Ai clan, they have Fa Xiang Laozu as their leader. They have long been the target of our sect's recruitment. Giving them 2 spiritual water meridian nourishing pills is worth it. Tian Shui Laozu glanced at Lu Ping, no longer harping on this matter. Instead, she turned around and said something that shocked Lu Ping. The 5 major sects of the Eastern Sea have sent people over. A group of 10 people has arrived at Xianling sect. Tianlu Laozu's originally gloomy expression became even more unsightly. With a muffled voice, he said, "The Demon's Alliance is already a foregone conclusion. Even the people of the Eastern Sea can't sit still? Xianling sect is still the #1 sect in the Northern Sea." Tian Shui Laozu's expression turned serious, which was rarely seen. "It's because of Dao Xing. Because of his late-stage Dharma cultivation, in the eyes of the sects of the Eastern Sea, a sect without a grand cultivator to guard it is ultimately a second-rate sect. Senior brother Tian Xiang, Tian Shui Laozu's expression was a little uneasy as she said, "It should be soon." Chapter 423. Lu Ping and Fornax Laozu were sitting cross-legged in the North Sea Palace. An alchemy Grand Master was holding something in his hand and introducing it to the master of the palace. Lu Ping, on the other hand, was watching with great interest, while Fornax Cauldron Patriarch was disdainful. Clearly, he didn't like the things displayed by the cultivators on the stage. The cultivator on the stage held a piece of high-grade mysterious gray iron in his hand. However, this mysterious gray iron was not an ordinary high-grade spiritual material. This was because mysterious gray iron was a spiritual material that was commonly used to refine high-grade pill furnaces. Therefore, it was reasonable for the mysterious gray iron to appear in the alchemist assembly. In the end, this piece of dark gray iron was traded for by a newly promoted alchemy grandmaster like Lu Ping. Seeing the surprised expression on the newly promoted alchemy grandmaster's face, it was obvious that this grandmaster didn't have a high-grade pill furnace in his possession. Next, several alchemy grandmasters took turns to show off their treasures. At the same time, they stated their intentions for the exchange. There were many kinds of treasures. Some were for pill furnaces, some for rare spirit herbs, and some for 3,000-year-old spirit herbs. As for all kinds of rare and strange fire seeds, pill furnaces, pill recipes, fire control techniques, alchemy inheritances, and so on, they gave Lu Ping a lot of insight. Just as Lu Ping was thinking about what he should show off and trade for, a cultivator who looked to be in his 50s or 60s walked up slowly and took out a black block of earth the size of a washbasin from his storage magic tool. The old cultivator said, "This is a high-grade dark-level spirit stone. I hope to trade it for a pill that can help you break through to the Dharma phase." Finally, a heaven and earth spirit treasure appeared. Moreover, it was an earth attribute heaven and earth spirit treasure that was rarely seen in the Endless Sea Islands. Moreover, it was a high-grade profound ranked heaven and earth spirit treasure. For cultivators who needed to break through to the mid-core forging realm, this was a very suitable heaven and earth spirit treasure. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. Only now did he realize that this old cultivator was actually a peak core forging stage cultivator. From the pill that he wanted to trade for, this person's golden core was at least a 6th grade. Although the alchemists present couldn't use a high-grade dark-level spirit stone, everyone had a younger generation behind them. Therefore, it attracted the attention of many alchemists present. Some of them couldn't help but move their lips, as if trying to communicate with the old cultivator on the stage. The old cultivator also listened carefully, but in the end, he regretfully refused. His face was full of regret. At this moment, Lu Ping's expression changed. He secretly patted his chest and imperceptibly. Then, like the other alchemists beside him, he carefully probed the dark jade stone in the old cultivator's hand with his divine sense. At the same time, his eyes flashed and a green light flashed across his face. Lu Ping turned to Fornax Laozu and asked in a low voice, "Uncle Master, does our sect have any pills that can help break through to the transcendent stage?" Fornax Laozu looked at Lu Ping in surprise. "You want this dark jade stone?" Lu Ping nodded and said, "Disciple has a demonic pet under me. Although it hasn't reached the core formation realm yet, earth attribute spirit items are extremely rare in the North Sea. Disciple wants to trade it for a rainy day." Fornax Laozu snorted. There are many early core forging stage cultivators in the North Sea who are stuck at a bottleneck because of spirit stones. You, on the other hand, even your pet needs to prepare for a rainy day. Hasn't your Luan caused you enough trouble? Lu Ping smiled bitterly and didn't say anything. Fornax Laozi said, Your Luan isn't simple. It has a lot to do with the Fire Luan race of the East Sea. Be careful, don't let others find you. Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat, but he immediately realized something. Lu Qin'er had been running around Tianling Mountain with Jiang Xianxian, so it would be strange if Shenling's sect didn't investigate this core forging realm monster cultivator's background. In front of the Avatar Great Ancestor, with Lu Qin'er's current strength, there was nothing she could hide. When he looked up, he saw that the old cultivator on the stage had a hint of joy on his face. He respectfully came before the ancestor of the Forsaken Cauldron Ancestor. Under the surprised gazes of the other ancestors, he handed a piece of dark jade stone to the ancestor of the Forsaken Cauldron Ancestor. The ancestor of the Forsaken Cauldron Ancestor gave him a jade bottle and said, Whether or not you succeed depends on your luck. The old cultivator thanked him profusely. Fornax Laozi waved his hand and the old man hurriedly retreated. Fornax Laozi handed the dark jade stone to Lu Ping. Only then did the other sect's Laozi withdraw their puzzled gazes. However, Fornax Laozi's voice rang out in Lu Ping's ears. Little fellow, I've exchanged for the spirit water meridian nourishing pills. I've also prepared 10 furnaces of blood condensing pills for you. As for some other core forging medicinal pills, you have to refine them as soon as possible. Also, when you have time, go to the monastery to practice your sword and raise your juniors. Lu Ping bitterly smiled and nodded. There really was no way to get this spiritual item for free. Once he returned, he would be very busy. However, he didn't have time to think about that right now. It was time for Lu Ping to reveal his treasures. Lu Ping needed a lot of things, but the treasures he could take out to exchange were very few. The rest were mostly spiritual items. Lu Ping naturally wouldn't take them out in this kind of situation. After thinking about it, Lu Ping decided to keep a low profile. He had already attracted a lot of attention in this gathering, so there was no need for him to attract too much attention. Lu Ping took out 18 3,000-year-old spirit herbs. He wanted to exchange them for a wood attribute, fire attribute, or wind attribute natural treasure. If that didn't work, he could also exchange them for high-grade spirit stones. Unexpectedly, these 18 3,000-year-old spirit herbs attracted the attention of the North Sea Palace's alchemists. Someone was immediately willing to pay 18 high-grade spirit stones, but then someone else shouted out 36 high-grade spirit stones. Ever since the large spirit mine on Frost Island began to be excavated, the shortage of spirit stones in the North Sea Palace had been alleviated to a certain extent. High-grade spirit stones were also more abundant, which made these North Sea Palace alchemists feel very generous. Lu Ping didn't expect that his dozen 3,000-year-old spirit herbs would be so crazily fought over by everyone. However, he immediately understood that spirit herbs were items that could be used by everyone. They weren't like spiritual items, which not only depended on grade, but also attribute, which was really troublesome. Of course, the 3,000-year-old spirit herbs themselves were also good items that alchemists would crave for. In the end, these dozen 3,000-year-old spirit herbs were exchanged for by a Laozi of the Ocean Flame sect with a wind-like object and 18 high-grade spirit stones. Lu Ping was secretly delighted and excitedly returned to Fornax Laozi's side. However, he heard Fornax Laozi snort coldly and said, If you need a natural treasure, you can use your 3,000-year-old spirit herbs to exchange with our sect. Why give it to an outsider? Lu Ping shrugged and didn't say anything. After obtaining the 7 treasures Thunder Calabash, the existence of natural treasures became a bottomless pit for Lu Ping. Currently, Lu Ping could already nurture 4 kinds of Yin thunders of metal, water, earth, and ice from the Thunder Calabash. He had also collected 2 kinds of wood attribute mysterious items. Only the fire and wind attribute mysterious items were still the first kind, but now with this wind-like object, he wasn't too far away from the initial success of the 7 treasures Thunder Calabash. At this time, in the North Sea Palace, there were only a few Dharma realm alchemists left who hadn't shown their treasures. This was also the climax of this alchemist gathering. After all, the wealth of Fa Xiang Laozu was not something that others could compare to. In particular, the wealth of Fa Xiang Laozu was to a certain extent the wealth of their respective sections. Fornax Laozu's face was gloomy from the beginning. Seeing that only Fa Xiang Laozu hadn't shown his treasure, he was the first to step onto the stage. Fornax Laozu reached out and slapped a jade box on the stage. He coldly said, "One spirit water meridian nourishing Dan. I don't want to talk about its effects. I'm sure everyone has heard about Nephew Xian Senator. If you want to trade, bring a natural treasure, a longevity pill recipe, a top-grade spirit stone, or at least 53,000-year-old spirit herbs. 800,000-year-old spirit herbs are also fine. However, the spirit herbs must be rare and precious. Don't try to fool me with some supplementary spirit herbs." Fornax Laozu's exorbitant demand shocked Lu Ping. Who would be willing to pay such a high price for a spirit water meridian nourishing Dan? The value of the treasure that Fornax Laozu was asking for was at least 15 times the value of the Dan itself. However, to Lu Ping's surprise, the moment Fornax Laozu's words fell, the Linggu Sect's alchemy grandmaster took out a storage pouch and said that there were 800,000-year-old spirit herbs inside that he wanted to trade for this Dan. Meanwhile, Hai Yen Sect's Laozu directly took out a mid-grade mystic rank natural treasure. However, in the end, it was still exchanged by the Shui Yen Pavilion with 3 ordinary jade-like stones. Lu Ping knew that the 3 ordinary jade-like stones were top-grade spirit stones. He had one himself. Lu Ping suddenly felt that someone was staring at him. When he turned his head, he just happened to see Liao Ruingjia and Ai Zhong nodding at Lu Ping with gratitude. Lu Ping also smiled at the two of them, but his heart was bleeding. The 2 spirit water meridian nourishing Dan that he exchanged with them was practically free. Many other cultivators also looked at Lu Ping with doubtful gazes. They seemed to be wondering if this Dan was made by Lu Ping. After all, when the North Sea Palace opened yesterday, Lu Ping had revealed his ability to refine pills with spirit water. However, the majority of people still believe that this Dan was made by Fornax Laozu. Not to mention the fact that the spirit water meridian nourishing Dan was extremely difficult to refine. The spirit water meridian nourishing Dan itself was equivalent to a late-stage core forging pill. The cultivators in the North Sea Palace did not believe that Lu Ping's alchemy skills had reached such a level. Moreover, if it was Lu Ping who refined it, then the person who showed off the treasure should be Lu Ping. After that, Fornax Laozu did not leave the stage. Instead, he took out another jade box and said, "There is one more here. The conditions remain the same. Longevity pill recipe first." The cultivators in the North Sea Palace were stunned, but they did not say anything. Fornax Laozu showing off treasures in succession was against the rules, but the rules were set by the Laozu. No one would cause trouble for the Laozu over such a trivial matter. Moreover, the spirit water meridian nourishing Dan was the only pill that could restrain the strange magical abilities of the demon cultivators. In recent years, the sects in the North Sea had fought against the demon race, and many cultivators had been destroyed by this strange magical ability. The second spirit water meridian nourishing Dan was traded by a grandmaster from the Tsanghai sect with 2 kinds of mid-grade mystic class origin treasures. The Tsanghai sect's cultivator was at the 6th stage core forging realm and was about to advance to the late stage core forging realm. Who would have thought that such a disaster would happen to him? Unexpectedly, after Fornax Laozu showed off 2 treasures in succession, he did not lose face. Instead, he sneered in the direction of the Xianling sect. Chapter 424. Dowley, I heard that 2 days ago, your sect's late-stage core forging realm cultivator, Wang Shufei, was also crippled by the demonic cultivator's strange divine ability. There is also a 6th-stage core forging realm cultivator named Zhuo Shuyun who is struggling at death's door. Don't tell me your sect doesn't want to exchange 1 or 2 meridian-nourishing pills for these 2 disciples? Standing on the stage, Tianlu Laozu took out another jade box and slapped it on the table. He sneered at Dowli Laozu, who looked a little hesitant. When the cultivators in the North Sea Palace saw Tianlu Laozu take out another meridian-nourishing pill, many of them were overjoyed. However, when Tianlu Laozu turned to Daoli Laozu, the cultivators in the North Sea Palace paled. The few cultivators who were eager to try the meridian-nourishing pill immediately gave up. Daoli Laozu looked troubled and said, "Brother Tianlu, the old man has a high-grade mystic class origin treasure and a few top-grade spirit stones. If Brother Tianlu agrees, the old man will naturally agree." Tianlu Laozu sneered and said, "Daoli, you and I have known each other for a long time. You know very well what I need. If you take out the recipe for the 5 years longevity pill, I could even take out 3 of them, not to mention 1 meridian-nourishing pill. As far as I know, your Xianling sect has an early-stage core forging realm cultivator who was injured by the demonic cultivator's strange divine ability. If our sects exchange, it will be a win-win situation. Wang Shufei also used a mid-grade Earth-class origin treasure to advance to the late-stage core forging realm. As long as his cultivation recovers, he may have a chance to advance to the 6th-stage gold core. That Shui Shuyun is Dao Yan's direct disciple. Think about it carefully." After Tianlu Laozu finished speaking, 2 identical jade boxes fell on the stone table. 3 meridian-nourishing pills in total. This time, the North Sea Palace was silent. Everyone looked at Daoli Laozu, waiting for his decision. It was no secret in the North Sea that Jinling was collecting longevity pill recipes from all over the world. Other than Xianling sect and Jinling, all the major sects had profited from Jinling in the past. At the same time, they knew that Jinling's famous Tiancong Laozu was at the end of his rope. On the other hand, Xianling's sect was obviously holding on to the longevity pill recipes. They would rather see the cultivation of their 3 core forging cultivators destroyed than give Jinling Laozu a chance to live for another 5 years. Otherwise, Tianlu Laozu wouldn't have used the opportunity to cause trouble for Xianling sect. Lu Ping couldn't help but sigh at the craftiness and ruthlessness of the older generation. Previously, the 2 Tianlu Laozu and Tianlu Laozu had met privately. After Tianlu Laozu was rejected, they immediately used this method to force Daoli to abdicate. Now, it was up to Daoli Laozu to react. If Daoli Laozu's words and actions were inappropriate, even if Jinling couldn't get the longevity pills, Daoli Laozu would lose his reputation in Xianling sect. Perhaps Xianling sect might even lose their morale because of this. What a vicious move! Lu Ping's face was solemn, as if he was fully supporting Tianlu Laozu's actions. At the same time, his eyes were staring fiercely at Xianling sect's side, as if he didn't mind shedding all pretense of cordiality. However, in his heart, he was calculating the chances of Tianlu Laozu's plan succeeding. Dao Li's reason was actually very simple. Xianling sect used 3 crippled core forging cultivators to exchange for Jinling's Laozu. No matter how he looked at it, it was a good deal. However, the monster race was closing in on them. A dying Dharma adept Laozu, not to mention 5 more years of life, just 1 or 2 more years would be a great help to his sect and the North Sea's cultivation world. This was righteousness. On the other hand, Xianling sect, in order to achieve its goal, turned its disciples into tools that could be sacrificed at any time. This made them feel bitterly disappointed. This was benevolence. However, in recent years, Xianling sect had been continuously challenged by the rising Jinling. Now that they finally had a chance to weaken Jinling, how could Xianling sect let it go? 8 Dharma adepts Laozu and 3 mid-Dharma adepts. How terrifying was this force in the North Sea? The Haiyan sect and the Shuyan Pavilion had always been ranked behind Jinling. Each sect only had 5 Dharma Laozu cultivators, and only 1 or 2 of them had reached the mid-Dharma stage. Just as Daoli Laozu was thinking about something with a dark expression, Wei Shiren, who was next to Daoli Laozu, suddenly smiled sinisterly and said, "Tianlu, don't even think about it. A longevity elixir is a treasure, not to mention a 5-year longevity elixir. Back then, Master Daokong Laozu's death had something to do with you, Jinling. This time, Daokong deserved to die. He only died after 50 to 60 years, and he got off lightly." Tianlu Laozu and Daoli Laozu's expressions changed, and they shouted at the same time. Shut up! The two Dharma Laozu's power was so great that Wei Shiren's face turned pale under the pressure of the two Laozu's aura. His eyes were still sinister, but there was a hint of guilt in them. The other masters of alchemy and Laozu all had calm expressions on their faces. They were as still as wooden statues, but in private, they had already exploded. Dao Kong's death in the past was Jinling's doing? So, it wasn't some ancient ruin exploration. I knew it. How could an ancient ruin kill a Dharma Laozu? But how could Xianling sect swallow this insult for 50 to 60 years? Dao Xing Laozu isn't someone to be trifled with. I get it. Do you still remember the fight over the spirit mine on Rising Sun Island between Jinling and Xianling sect 50-something years ago? That's not right. At that time, Dao Kong Laozu didn't join the battle. That's right. Why didn't he join the battle? That was the final battle between the Dharma Laozu of the two sections. If he didn't go, it could only mean that he died. During the battle on Rising Sun Island, 11 Laozu fought in a chaotic battle. Not only was Dao Xing Laozu among them, there were also 5 Laozu in the middle stage of the Dharma realm. How did Rising Sun Island end up in Xianling sect's hands without suffering too much damage after the battle, and then news of Dao Kong Laozu's death spread? That makes sense. Looks like both sects were very secretive about that battle in the past. There might be something fishy going on. Based on what that idiot Wei Shiren said, it seems like Jinling's Tian Kong Laozu also lost his life in that battle. That's right. Tian Shui and Tian Fan blocked Dao Xing. Tian Xiang and Dao Quan have always been enemies. Tian Kong was the 4th strongest expert in Jinling sect at that time, so the one who blocked Dao Yan must have been him. Dao Yan is a mid-Dharma adept, so he must have used a method to deplete his lifespan to block Dao Yan. That's why Jinling sect has been trying so hard to find all kinds of longevity elixirs for the past 50 to 60 years. Dao Li Laozu wanted nothing more than to slap Wei Shiren, who was standing next to him, to death. This incompetent bastard. Initially, Dao Li's hesitation could still be interpreted as him weighing the lives of his 3 disciples. Even if he gave up in the end, it was because he had no choice but to do so. Wei Shiren's words, however, were clearly telling the North Sea that even if Xianling sect had to sacrifice the lives of their disciples, they would not let Jinling Laozu live for another 5 years. The same thing, the same goal, but with a different cover, the meaning expressed was completely different. Seeing this, Tianlu Laozu could only calculate that Xianling sect did not care about the lives of their disciples. Although he sighed inwardly because he did not get the longevity pill recipe, he did not want Xianling sect to have an easy time. Thus, he said, "All right, old man understands your sect's intention." This was akin to nailing Xianling sect's reputation of not caring about the lives of their disciples to the pillar of shame in the North Sea's cultivation world. Dao Li Laozu's expression changed. Suddenly, he said, "It is not impossible for your sect to exchange for our longevity pill recipe. What are your conditions? Speak." Tianlu Laozu stopped in his tracks and stared fixedly at Dao Li Laozu. Lu Ping's spirit was lifted, and he looked at Dao Li Laozu. Wei Shiren, who was standing beside Dao Li Laozu, looked anxious, as if he wanted to say something, but no sound came out. Obviously, he was secretly restrained by someone, but no one knew if it was Dao Li Laozu or Tianlu Laozu. "Wonder Do! Our sect wants the Wonder Do!" Dao Li Laozu stared fixedly at Tianlu Laozu and uttered these few words. The North Sea Palace was in an uproar. Many cultivators looked at each other, trying to figure out what the Wonder Do was. Lu Ping was also confused. When he looked up, he saw that the Dharma adepts of each sect were looking at Tianlu Laozu on the stage with surprised expressions. Obviously, these Laozu adepts knew what the Wonder Do was. Lu Ping looked up at Tianlu Laozu and saw Tianlu Laozu shaking his head. "Dao Li, I, Jinling, do not have the Wonder Do. The old man also knows where your guess came from. I thought you would ask for the spirit-forging pill from our sect, but I didn't expect you to ask for this. Does this mean that your sect already has the recipe for the spirit-forging pill and is planning to refine it yourself?" Tianlu Laozu's words were like a fuse that ignited a firecracker. No one knew about the Wonder Dew, but who didn't know about the famous spirit-forging pill? The spirit-forging pill was a pill that could increase the rank of a golden core. It could be consumed by a late core forging cultivator, but it was a true core forging pill. Years ago, when Lu Ping brought back 8 spirit forging pills from Fei Ling Island, the shock it brought to Gui Xianshan and Lu Xianling was still vivid in Lu Ping's mind. Moreover, as his cultivation and experience increased, it became more and more unforgettable. Compared to the spirit forging pill, the pill that Tianlu Laozu used to exchange for the amulet stone, which was said to be able to help a cultivator reach the Dharma manifestation stage, was nothing compared to the spirit-forging pill. Increasing the rank of a golden core not only meant that a cultivator's chances of advancing to the Dharma manifestation stage increased greatly, but more importantly, it meant that the cultivator would be able to go further in the Dharma manifestation stage in the future and become stronger. Lu Ping's heart sank, and he immediately had a guess. Sure enough, Dao Laozu's deep laughter rang out. Spirit-forging pill, even in the Fei Ling sect back then, there were only a few of them, and they were all carried by Laozu of the Fei Ling sect. Not to mention that you, Junling, couldn't have collected all of them. Even if you did, how many could you have? And why did you only use it now? After Jiang Tianlin advanced to the Dharma manifestation stage, why was he able to defeat the 2 famous cultivators who were on the same level as him back then, the Golden Dragon Island Master and our martial nephew Feng? Why was Lu Tianling able to reach the Dharma manifestation stage in such a short period of time, and was able to defeat martial nephew Feng, whose strength was far above his? Chapter 425. Dao Laozu's counterattack came so quickly. In just a moment, Tianlu Laozu's attempt to force Xianling's sect to abdicate had turned into Dao Laozu's questioning of Junling. The spirit-forging pill. That was a spirit-forging pill that could raise the rank of a golden pill. And there was also the mysterious Wonder Jade Nectar that only the few alchemy grandmasters present, Transcendence Laozu, knew about. Lu Ping didn't know what the Wonder Jade Nectar was, but he was very familiar with the spirit-forging pill. But now, Lu Ping at least knew that the Wonder Jade Nectar was the most important ingredient in refining the spirit-forging pill. Although Dao Laozu's speculation made sense, Lu Ping was very clear about Junling's spirit-forging pill. 8 spirit-forging pills were stored in a jade essence bottle. Lu Ping found it in the underground cave on Fei Ling Island. Jiang and Lu must have used the power of the spirit-forging pill to advance to the transcendence stage. Chu Xuanqing and the others might have done the same. However, if Junling had already mastered the recipe and could refine the spirit-forging pill by himself, Lu Ping didn't believe it. Lu Ping was one of the 5 alchemy grandmasters of Junling. Although he didn't usually go to the elixir pavilion, he was very clear about Junling's alchemy skills. If the sect had really obtained the recipe for the spirit-forging pill, a grandmaster like Lu Ping would definitely know about it. At least that spiritual master Xian Jing had obtained a spirit-forging pill from his master for research, but after researching for more than 20 years, he still didn't find anything. Tianlu Laozu waited for Dao Laozu to finish speaking before he slowly stood up and said, Dao, do you know about the Wonder Jade Essence bottle? Dao Laozu was startled when he heard Fornax Laozu's words. However, he did not reply. Fornax Laozu unhurriedly said, The wondrous Jade Essence bottle itself is a spiritual level treasure. If you use it to store spirit-forging pills, do you think a mere 4,000 years can make a few spirit-forging pills lose their effectiveness? Meanwhile, the Mistwater Pavilion's Fa Xiang, Laozu said, The myriad wonder chalcedony bottle is indeed capable of preserving the medicinal properties of a medicinal pill for thousands of years without losing, and using it to store a spirit-forging pill isn't considered to be a reckless waste of God's given gifts. But where did this myriad wonder chalcedony bottle come from? Fornax Laozu took out a wondrous jade essence bottle. Lu Ping recognized that it was the wondrous jade essence bottle that Lu Ping had brought out from Fei Ling Island all those years ago. However, he didn't expect that this wondrous jade essence bottle was actually a spiritual level treasure. Lu Ping cursed in his heart. he felt that the reward given by the sect at that time was too little. But then he remembered that he was only a third-layer blood condensation realm minor repairs at that time. Even if a top-grade treasure was given to Lu Ping, he still needed to have the strength to receive it. Otherwise, a mid-grade mystic-grade soul-nourishing wood wouldn't have been enough for Lu Ping to hide it for so many years. Fornax Laozu casually threw the wondrous jade essence bottle to the Mistwater Pavilion's Fa Xiang, Laozu, who had just spoken. This Laozu stretched out his hand to catch the wondrous jade essence bottle, and his eyes immediately lit up. He clicked his tongue and said, "It really is the myriad wonder chalcedony bottle. This item hasn't appeared in the North Sea for many years." As he spoke, this Laozu opened the lid of the wondrous jade essence bottle and sniffed it. Then, he closed his eyes as if he was recalling something. After a moment, he opened his eyes and said, "Yes, there is indeed the aura of the spirit-forging pill in this bottle. I, Laozu, have seen some records about the spirit-forging pill in an ancient book. This wondrous jade essence bottle definitely once contained the spirit-forging pill." When this Laozu finished speaking, he handed the wondrous jade essence bottle to the next Laozu. The wondrous jade essence bottle passed through the hands of the other Laozu, then returned to Fornax Laozu. The dozen or so alchemy masters in the North Sea Palace stared at it eagerly, but they didn't have the qualifications to touch the most ideal treasure for alchemists to store precious pills. After Fornax Laozu put away the wondrous jade essence bottle, he laughed at himself and said, "I found the spirit-forging pill on Fei Ling Island, but I didn't find the recipe. As for the wonder dew, I, Zhenling, haven't been lucky enough to find it. The spirit-forging pill was the best pill in the Fei Ling sect back then. Even with all the power of the Fei Ling sect, they might not even have a few. Usually it is carried by the few Laozu in the sect, but this wondrous jade essence bottle can obviously contain no less than 5 pills. How is this possible?" The one who spoke was Wei Shiren. It seemed that he had regained a lot of his rationality. Fornax Laozu glanced at him and said, "Who knows? Maybe this wondrous jade essence bottle belongs to Jiao Yuqiang." Lu Ping's heart skipped a beat. This was the third time Lu Ping had heard someone mention the name, Jiao Yuqiang. "That's impossible!" Wei Shiren seemed to have grasped something, and his slightly crazed demeanor from before reappeared. He said, "Jiao Yuqiang was surrounded and killed by 2 Dharma adepts. How could he have left behind anything?" "Surrounded and killed?" Fornax Laozu's lips curled into a mocking smile as he said, "They surrounded him, but I don't know if they killed him or not." Wei Shiren was still angry and wanted to say something, but to his surprise, Dao Laozu said, "That's right. One of our sect's Laozu participated in the siege of Jiao Yuqiang." Jiao Yuqiang did escape back to Fei Ling Mountain, but he had been seriously injured by the Laozu and was on the verge of death. There was no way he could have survived. Moreover, the island sealing formation on Fei Ling Island was activated at that time, and the entire island was on the verge of sinking, so we didn't look for his body. The wondrous jade bottle. Jiao Yuqiang once refined a few of these jade bottles. Fornax Laozu and Dao Laozu's guesses were full of loopholes, especially when Fornax Laozu mentioned the name, Jiao Yuqiang. For some reason, the North Sea Palace's Laozu nodded in agreement. Although Dao Laozu's face was gloomy, he didn't say anything else. The North Sea Palace was silent for a moment. Then, Sea Flame Sect's Laozu turned to Dao Laozu and said, "Brother Dao Li, does this mean that your sect really obtained the recipe for the spirit-forging pill? Did you get it from Fei Ling Island?" Dao Laozu's face was solemn. He shook his head and said, "No, it was sent by the people of the East Sea. They found Zhongshuan Laozu's cave a few years ago. However, this pill recipe is not complete. It only records the spirit herbs needed for refining the pill and some other things to take note of. The specific refining method is not recorded." Lu Ping saw that the other Dharma manifestation stage masters were indifferent, and didn't show any reaction to the arrival of the East Sea cultivators. Obviously, the Laozu present had already received the news, and Dao Laozu didn't deliberately hide it. "Brother Dao Li, do you think the people of the East Sea didn't get the pill recipe, Or did they deliberately give your sect an incomplete pill recipe with ulterior motives? Dao Laozi shook his head and said, "The pill recipe can't be fake. They can't fool me." "Brother Dao Li, do you know the purpose of the people from the East Sea?" Blue Sea sect's Laozi couldn't help but ask. Dao Laozi said, "The overseas demon clans have already formed an alliance. The East Sea cultivators naturally can't sit still. This time, they are here to help the overseas human cultivators to fight against the demon clans. The leader is a Dharma manifestation stage cultivator from the Crystal Palace. Following him are 5 late-core forging stage and 5 mid-core forging stage cultivators from the 5 major sections. Our sect is only the first stop. Later on, these 11 people will visit the other sections." After the dispute between Tianlu Laozi and Dao Laozi, the following bright treasure trade fair became dull. The enlightened masters Laozi of the various sects seemed to have some ulterior motives and hurriedly exchanged a few treasures. This time, the North Sea Pill Masters gathering came to an end. However, after the gathering ended, a few cultivators from the sects found Tianlu Laozi in private. Both sides had a secret discussion. Tianlu Laozi's gloomy expression finally relaxed after not being able to exchange for the longevity pill recipe. Without guessing, Lu Ping knew that these cultivators came for the Spirit Stone Meridian Nourishing Pill. Moreover, they were ruthlessly extorted by Tianlu Laozi. When Lu Ping followed Tianlu Laozi back to the Snow Mist Palace, the first thing he saw was Tian Shui Laozi's gloomy expression. Obviously, Tian Shui Laozi already knew everything that had happened in the North Sea Palace. Tianlu Laozi sighed and said, "All my efforts were in vain. I was almost tricked by that old brat Dao Li. I had no choice but to reveal the 1,000-wonder jade essence bottle." Tian Shui Laozi said coldly, "The various sects are not that stupid. It is said that the spiritual forging pills recipe was not recorded down. Instead, it was passed down verbally by a few important figures of the Fei Ling sect. I believe that all the sects know about it." Tianlu Laozi nodded his head and said, "Senior sister, you mean to say that the incomplete recipe of the spiritual forging pill that was sent by the various sects in the Eastern Sea was passed down by Zhongxian Laozi?" Tian Shui Laozi nodded her head and said, "Zhongxian Laozi fled to the Eastern Sea with the intention of restoring his sect. How could he not pay attention to a top-grade spiritual pill like the spiritual forging pill? However, he is after all a blacksmith and not a master alchemist. Thus, the recipe of the spiritual forging pill was not passed down to him. However, with his status, it is not difficult for him to know some of the spiritual herbs needed to refine the spiritual forging pill. However," Tian Shui Laozi paused for a moment, and her face turned cold again. "We cannot give up on the matter of collecting the recipe of the longevity pill. Xianling sect cannot be counted on. They would rather destroy the cultivation of their 3-core forging realm cultivators and exhaust their lifespan than to exchange the recipe with us. However, after this group of people from the Eastern Sea goes to Xianling sect, they might come to Junling. At that time, we will see if we can get any ideas from them, especially the cultivators from the Crystal Palace. The Eastern Sea Crystal Palace even has a 10-year longevity pill. Of course, we don't even need to think about it. As long as we can get a 5-year longevity pill recipe, it will be enough. Junior brother Tian Kang's days are getting shorter and shorter." Tianlu Laozi nodded his head. Tian Shui Laozi then looked at Lu Ping with a trace of admiration in his eyes. He said, "Brat, this time, although you did not manage to exchange for the longevity pill recipe, you did humiliate a Xianling sect alchemist at the entrance of the Northern Sea Palace. Even though Wei Shiren is a glutton, it is still a good thing. I, Laozi, am a man of my words. I will let you pick a treasure." After saying that, Tian Shui Laozi waved his hand and a door appeared in front of him. It was similar to the method Jiang Tianlin Laozi used to capture Lu Ping and bring him to the Xiaoyao Palace. "Grand Marshal Uncle," Lu Ping said with some embarrassment. "Actually, this disciple also has the recipe for the 5-year longevity pill." Chapter 426. For some unknown reason, Tianlu Laozu and Tian Shui Laozu didn't have the expression of joy that Lu Ping had imagined. They just stared at Lu Ping with an ominous glint in their eyes. Clearly, they were suppressing their anger. Tianlu Laozu didn't say anything while Tian Shui Laozu frowned. In the end, he didn't say anything. Why didn't you say so earlier? Are you coveting the treasures in Laozu's hands? Lu Ping sighed inwardly. This time, he really didn't say it at the right time. Others had racked their brains but failed to obtain it. Yet he didn't take it out. It was inevitable that others would criticize him. However, this item was obtained by him. Even if he didn't take it out, what could others say? Thus, he didn't mind and said, "Disciple has long wanted to say it, but I didn't have the chance yesterday. If it wasn't for teacher telling disciple about this matter, disciple wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to find this pill formula." Lu Ping was very familiar with lying. When the two Laozu heard that it was Lu Tianling Laozu who specifically asked Lu Ping to find it, they looked at each other and saw a trace of gratification in each other's eyes. Thus Tianlu Laozu said, "Bring the pill formula over to the old man to take a look." Lu Ping respectfully handed over a 5 years longevity pill formula to Tianlu Laozu. With a thought, Tianlu Laozu already checked the contents of the pill formula. After a moment, Tianlu Laozu put down the jade slip with the pill formula with a calm expression. Tian Shui Laozu, who was beside him, was somewhat impatient as she asked, "How is it? The pill formula can still be used?" Tianlu Laozu replied calmly, "Not bad. It's not the same as the previous pill formula. It can still be used." Tian Shui Laozu's face lit up with joy as she said, "Good, good." Although Tianlu Laozu was still as calm as before, Lu Ping could tell from Tianlu Laozu's grip on the jade slip that Tianlu Laozu's heart wasn't calm. Heavenly Snow Ancestor looked at Lu Ping and said with a smile, "Little sly fox, your cunning skills are indeed inherited from that little girl Lu Tianling. But you're still far from her level. Fine, I'll keep my word. Go ahead and choose your treasures, but don't think of taking too many. 3 is 3. Heavenly Snow Ancestor nodded and said, "All right, I'll keep my word." Finished speaking, without waiting for Lu Ping to react, the black door in front of Lu Ping swallowed Lu Ping in a single gulp. After Lu Ping was taken away by Tian Shui Laozu, Tian Shui Laozu turned to Tianlu Laozu and said, "I didn't expect this kid to have so many treasures in his hands." The title of treasure boy in his early years didn't disgrace him at all. The forsaken cauldron ancestor faintly said, "There is nothing special about this kid's growth. His achievements are his own hard work, and the treasures he possesses were also earned by himself. Even if we know that he has something we need, how could we open our mouths and ask for it? Since he can take it out himself, it shows that his feelings for the sect are very deep. The further a cultivator walks in the cultivation world, the colder their heart becomes. This is something that can't be helped. With this kid's character, if he can grow up smoothly in the future, no matter if he stands in front of the stage or behind the scenes, it will be 100 benefits, and no harm to the sect." Tian Shui Laozu nodded and said, "Qian Feng also told me about some of this kid's matters in the Eastern Sea. I heard that in the parish secret territory, there's a faction that he runs that has entered the eyes of the Northern Alliance. In the past, because of Xuanqing's matter, Qian Feng didn't like Tianlin and Tianling very much. Who would have thought that he would place so much importance on this kid? This really surprised me." Tianlu Laozu smiled and said, "I've also heard about this matter. It's said that Tian Xiang Laozu even met this kid because of this. I also heard that this kid learned the Bell Cauldron pill from Xuanqing's disciple and was lucky enough to refine one. It can be said that he saved Xian Feng's life." Tian Shui Laozu also said, "That year, Xian Feng was depressed because of Xuanqing's matter. After being attacked by Tianfan, he finally pulled himself together. However, this kid brought back the spirit-forging pill from Fei Ling Island. Originally, Xian Feng was supposed to have one, but he rejected it. Previously, when Xian Feng went to the Eastern Sea, it was with this kid's help that he obtained a 5,000-year-old heavenly wind leaf. Originally, I was wondering if Xian Feng would be able to condense a 7th-grade golden core. Now that I think about it, his achievements should not be any lower than Xian Cheng and Xian Shan. Tianlu Laozi smiled and said, "A 5,000-year-old heavenly wind leaf is not that easy to refine. If it is successful, even if Xian Feng's strength cannot be compared to Feng Shu Tao's, he should still be above Xian Shan and Xian Cheng's. I've already ordered Xian Jing to send the last spirit-forging pill over to him, strictly ordering him to refine the heavenly wind leaf as soon as possible after consuming it." Tian Shui Laozu's eyes lit up and said, "Junior brother, you've put in a lot of effort. However, isn't that spirit-forging pill left for Marshal Nephew Xian Jing to research on the spirit-forging pill's formula?" Tianlu Laozu snorted coldly and didn't say anything. Tian Shui Laozu also didn't ask any more. The two of them were silent for a while in the snow mist palace. Tianlu Laozu then said, "How should we deal with the envoy from the Eastern Sea this time?" Tian Shui Laozu smiled and said, "What else can we do? The moment they came to the Northern Sea, they went to Xianling sect and gave us a lot of benefits. We, the Xianling sect, are naturally envious. Naturally, we want to get some benefits from the rich and overbearing Eastern Sea Taoist. I think the other sects in the Northern Sea have the same idea. However, Xianling sect is the #1 sect in the Northern Sea, and Dao Xing Laozu is the only late Dharma adept in the Northern Sea. The first stop of the envoy from the Eastern Sea is Xianling sect. Therefore, the sects in the Northern Sea will naturally follow Xianling sect's lead." Tianlu Laozu smiled knowingly and said, "That's right. With the acknowledgement of the Eastern Sea's great sect, I think the entire Xianling sect should be in high spirits." After a while, Tianlu Laozu opened his mouth again and said, "Senior sister, is there any news from Senior Tianxiang recently?" Tian Shui Laozu shook her head seriously and said, "Ever since the last time Senior Tianxiang arranged a lot of things in the parish mystery land, there has been no news from him. However, before he went into closed-door training, he seemed to have found Xianqin. A few days ago, there was news that a pill formula from the Eastern Sea would be sent over. It is also a 5-year longevity pill formula. It should be from Xuanqin's hands." Tianlu Laozu smiled happily and said, "It must have been hard on this child. This time, with these 2 5-year longevity pill formulas, if the entire sect were to use the strength of the entire sect to refine all the longevity pills that we have collected previously, it should be able to save up 30 years of life for Senior Tiankong. With this 30 years of life as the price, Senior Tiankong can advance to the mid-Dharma stage and gain an additional 200 years of life in one go. By then, Xianling's sect will really be suppressed by our sect." Tian Shui Laozu also looked a little excited and said, "This plan has been planned by us for 50 years after Junior Tiankong was seriously injured. As long as Junior Tiankong can advance to the mid-Dharma stage, everything will be worth it." Tianlu thought for a moment and asked again, "Senior sister, so many years have passed. Senior Tianxiang's previous plan, is it to bring Xianqin back?" Tian Shui Laozi shook her head and said, "This Senior Tianxiang did not say it clearly. Back then, Xianlin, Xianling, and Xianqin were 3 people that even we could not control in the sect. However, these 3 bastards were all very respectful to Senior Tianxiang. More than 50 years ago, after that incident, Xianqin and Xianling could not coexist in the sect anymore. Xianqin left in a fit of anger. Now, it seems like she was also plotted against by someone else. However, after that Senior Tianxiang went to the parish mystery land to manage. Now that I think about it, Senior Tianxiang must have already seen through this matter decades ago and set up a plan. Previously, there was news from the Eastern Sea that Xianqin might have also advanced to the Dharma stage. If that is the case, once Xianqin returns and Junior Tiankong recovers from his injuries, his cultivation will improve. If that is the case, even if Senior Tianxiang, Xianling's sect will not dare to attack our sect. Once Senior Tianxiang succeeds, the Northern Sea will really be under our control." The black door flashed and disappeared. Lu Ping had already appeared safely in the snow mist palace. Tian Shui Laozu and Tian Xiang Laozu had already stopped chatting. Tian Shui Laozu smiled and said, "Brat, what good things have you brought? Show them to me." Lu Ping listened to the martial granduncle's teasing tone and felt helpless. He thought to himself, if this martial granduncle was a man, then he'd be a real troublemaker in the cultivation world. No wonder he was sent to Huanyu Island to wrangle with the old foxes from the other sections. Lu Ping thought to himself. No wonder he was sent to Huanyu Island to wrangle with the old foxes from the other sections. If it wasn't because this Laozu had achieved transcendence, and wanted to put on the airs of a senior, Lu Ping would have already been beaten up badly. Thus, he smiled and said, Senior Granduncle, this disciple was searching for treasures in the spatial ring that you opened up. Don't tell me you don't know. Tian Shui Laozu frowned and scolded. You little bastard, why are you talking so much nonsense? Laozu, I was just discussing the sex matters with your senior granduncle Tianlu. Why would I pay attention to your little quarrel? Laozu, I wanted to give you something good. If you don't take it out, then forget it. Helpless, Lu Ping could only take out the 3 treasures that he found in Tian Shui Laozu's spatial ring. And brat, you do have some foresight. Spiritual gathering pearl? I heard that you opened up a small island in the outer endless sea and became the island lord. On that island, there were 3 small spiritual veins. One of them was even used by a clan that belonged to our sect? Lu Ping smiled calmly and said, That's just a rumor. Other than one spiritual vein that was found in a cave belonging to a demon cultivator in the outer endless sea, the rest were nurtured by the spiritual gathering pearls that disciple found during his travels. Tian Shui Laozu looked at Lu Ping with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. He didn't pursue the matter any further. Lu Ping was also calm and composed, as if he wasn't afraid of any slanderous accusations. Tianlu Laozu picked up one of the jade boxes and opened it. Inside was a black inner core. Tianlu Laozu frowned and said, Mystic Tortoise Golden Core? What are you using this for? Lu Ping explained. Disciple has a demon tortoise under me. Its cultivation has reached the 9th layer of blood condensation realm. Disciple is also preparing for it to advance to the core forging realm. Tian Shui Laozu inadvertently glanced at the black and swarthy mystic tortoise core and said, This is a first-layer core forging demon tortoise that I killed during my travels in the Southern Sea. The mystic tortoise is considered a high-grade race within the Southern Sea tortoise race. Although it doesn't have an inherited bloodline like Bagui, it's still not weak. The 3rd item was a wood elemental natural oddity. It looked like several twists and turns of its own. Tian Shui Laozu couldn't help but ask, Little fellow, you're really strange. Although my spatial ring doesn't contain any rare treasures, there are still a few natural treasures and spiritual treasures. Even some divine abilities and secret techniques, spiritual pills and secret medicines are much stronger than these. Why are you not interested in them? Lu Ping smiled and said, Disciple Laozu's collection has already dazzled Disciple. I'm gasping in amazement. I'm almost dazzled by the number of treasures I've collected. However, after much consideration, Disciple still decided to pick the ones that I can use now. Although the other things are valuable, they aren't of much help to Disciple. Chapter 427. In Jinling, earth ranked and above heaven and earth's spiritual items, as well as other similar treasures, if one wanted to bestow it to their disciples, they would need at least 2 to 3 Transcendence Laozu's approval. Tian Shui Laozu had agreed to bestow some benefits to Lu Ping, but it was in her own name. Thus, even if Tian Shui Laozu might have even better treasures in her possession, and they weren't from the sect, she wouldn't take them out for Lu Ping to choose from. As for the few mystic rank heaven and earth spiritual items, Lu Ping really didn't fancy them. Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, Grand Marshal Uncle, actually this disciple still has some treasures that I fancy in the treasury. I wonder if this disciple can use other items to exchange for them? Oh? Tian Shui Laozu had an interested expression as she said, What good stuff do you have? Take it out and let me have a look. Lu Ping flipped through the storage ring in his hand before taking out a piece of chalcedony. The moment he took it out, the entire snow mist palace immediately turned cold. Not bad! Tian Shui Laozu's eyes lit up as she said, This is a mid-grade mystic rank cold ice pith. From the looks of it, it has been around for thousands of years. Our sect has a few initial stage core forging cultivators who practice ice attribute cultivation arts who have reached the threshold to advance to the middle stage. Your spiritual item came at the right time. Tell me, what did you fancy earlier? Lu Ping knew that Tian Shui Laozu was a great master who practiced ice attribute cultivation arts in their sect. He purposely took out this cold ice pith because he knew that Tian Shui Laozu would definitely be interested in it. A mid-grade mystic rank heaven and earth spiritual item was considered not bad for ordinary initial stage core forging cultivators. However, Lu Ping didn't fancy it. Even though Lu Ping had an ice snake among his Samling subordinates, if the green sea snake were to use a mid-grade mystic rank heaven and earth spiritual item to advance to the middle stage, it would be a waste. Lu Ping calmly passed the spiritual item to Tian Shui Laozu before saying, "This disciple saw that there is a wind seed in Laozu's treasury. This wind seed is useful to this disciple. I hope Laozu can part with it." Just as Lu Ping finished speaking, a small whirlwind-like wind seed appeared in front of Lu Ping. Traces of wind scattered around the wind seed, causing the temperature around the wind seed to drop even faster. It was to the point where frost was about to form. Tian Shui Laozu said, "Although this wind seed is a wind attribute heaven and earth spiritual item, it was obtained by me, Laozu, from the northern ice plains. The northern ice plains has been affected by the harsh cold all year round. When this wind seed is used, the cold wind is bone-piercing. Although it is considered a high-quality heaven and earth spiritual item, it is still lacking when compared to this cold ice pith. Brat, do you have anything else that you value?" Lu Ping already knew this would happen. Thus, he nodded his head and smiled. This disciple has taken a liking to a piece of crystal jade. Lu Ping was still unable to see how Tian Shui Laozu moved, and a piece of crystal-like object appeared in his hand. He said, "A second-grade water attribute mutated spiritual material. This is an extremely good item. It is comparable to those third-grade spiritual materials. The value of these two items added together is comparable to that cold ice pith. Brat, do you still need anything else? The old man also has a few heaven and earth spiritual items here. If you are able to exchange for that indigo spiritual fire, the old man will let you choose any of the heaven and earth spiritual items here." Tianlu Laozu knew that Lu Ping was searching for all sorts of heaven and earth spiritual items. Previously, Tianjiang Laozu had used the Eastern Purple Chi Flame to exchange for his Profound Sky spiritual fire, as well as the 3,000-year-old spiritual grass in the Northern Sea Palace. Thus, when he saw that Lu Ping was actually willing to take out a heaven and earth spiritual item to exchange for these items, Tianlu Laozu immediately shifted his attention to Lu Ping's high-grade profound spiritual item, indigo spiritual fire. The indigo spiritual fire was the most suitable profound spiritual fire for alchemy. Tianlu Laozu knew very well that if an early-stage core forging disciple used this fire to advance to the mid-stage, not only would it greatly benefit their alchemy skills, but it would also be possible for them to achieve a 6th-grade golden core and break through to the transcendent stage in the future. Lu Ping's heart moved. Now in the 7th Thunder Gem Calabash, 3 heaven and earth spiritual items of the 6 attributes of metal, wood, water, earth, wind, and ice were all gathered. There was only 1 heaven and earth spiritual item of the fire attribute left. Tianlu Laozu was the Sex Transcendent Stage Alchemy Grandmaster. How could he lack all kinds of fire seeds? Presumably, Lu Ping did not have to use the indigo spiritual fire. Lu Ping also had the soulwood and the Ming water of the mid-grade profound spiritual items. As long as he took out any of them, he could immediately exchange for 2 kinds of heaven and earth spiritual fire seeds. However, after thinking about it, Lu Ping still refused and said, "Thank you, Laozu, but I have nothing else I need at the moment." The 7 Thunder Gem Calabash could be said to be second only to Lu Ping's own bloodline. The secret of the 12 natal gentian pearls and the 9,000 years old white jade lotus flower in which the golden core was stored was even higher than Lu Ping's smelting of the Xianyuan heavy water to advance to the mid-core forging stage, and the cultivation technique. North Sea Wave Listening Art. Lu Ping was not willing to let others associate the 7 Thunder Gem calabash because of the heaven and earth spiritual item. This kind of treasure was always coveted. Because of its illustrious reputation, it was the most precious treasure in the hands of the 7th patriarch, Ping Daoren. Therefore, in the cultivation world, it had the reputation of being the first divine artifact. Unfortunately, after Ping Daoren, there was no other cultivator in the cultivation world who could refine the 7 Thunder Gem calabash to its peak. Tianlu Laozi nodded his head regretfully. Tian Shui Laozi laughed and scolded. Little fox! Then, he no longer cared about him. After bidding farewell to the two Laozi, Lu Ping left the Snow Mist Palace. Thinking that he had yet to tour the Huanyu Island, now that he had some free time, he might as well take a stroll around the city square. Ever since Lu Ping became a master alchemist, especially after he returned from the Eastern Sea, Lu Ping rarely went to the city square to purchase spiritual herbs without restraint. This was because as the master alchemist of the sect, there was basically no need for Lu Ping to do it himself. The sect would send a large amount of spiritual herbs to Lu Ping. This was the advantage of having the backing of a great sect. The scale of Huanyu Island's city square was very large. There were 3 streets in each direction. The city square was also filled with cultivators, making it very lively. Lu Ping excitedly began to purchase spiritual herbs without restraint. Spiritual herbs that were more than 500 years old, especially those that could be used to concoct the blood condensation pill, were all bought by Lu Ping with a large amount of spiritual stones. As for the 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs, although Huanyu Island was the most famous cultivator's city square in the Northern Sea, there weren't many 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs in the various shops. However, Lu Ping didn't mind. He would buy as many as he could. After half a day, although Lu Ping had some harvests, he became dispirited. Originally, Lu Ping still had the thought of picking up some leftovers and seeing if he could find some good items that could make his eyes light up. However, it was clear that luck couldn't always be on one person. Lu Ping's mind raced and he suddenly thought of the mortal market. It was a place where all kinds of strange things could be found. Although most of the things in the market were fake, it depended on the cultivator's eyesight. Perhaps one of the things that looked like a piece of junk could actually be a rare treasure. Lu Ping walked around here and there, heading towards the northern side of the city square. The mortal market was not as clean and tidy as the city square. This was a place where all sorts of good and bad people mixed together. There were all sorts of stalls set up everywhere without any sort of order to speak of. All sorts of shouts, quarrels, and curses could be heard. Lu Ping was not surprised. As he walked slowly, he lowered his head to look at the various items placed on the ground. At the same time, he inadvertently glanced behind him, the corners of his lips curling into a sneer. When he passed by a narrow alley, Lu Ping's figure flashed and disappeared into it. A young cultivator hurriedly walked over and also walked into the alley. However, when the cultivator entered the alley and saw that it was empty, he was immediately shocked. "Are you looking for me?" A calm voice rang out from behind the cultivator. The calm voice caused the cultivator to jump and he hastily turned around. Lu Ping looked at this mid-blood condensation realm minor repairs in front of him and felt a sense of déjà vu. On the other hand, the cultivator in front of him was already overjoyed. He bowed and said, "Junior Tsingwu greets Senior." Lu Ping asked in surprise, "Tsingwu? I don't know you. Why are you bowing so respectfully to me?" Tsingwu straightened his body and said excitedly, "Senior might have forgotten, but I am a little shop assistant on Autumn Cloud Island. Senior rewarded me with pills and spirit stones that allowed me to reach my current level of cultivation." It suddenly dawned on Lu Ping. Back then, when he was still a blood condensation realm cultivator and returned to Chiuyun Island from the Monster Sea region, he did hire an early blood refining realm cultivator as a guide. He even gave the cultivator a few bottles of medicinal pellets and spirit stones. But who would have thought that after a few decades, the blood refining realm cultivator had become a mid-blood condensation realm cultivator with a dignified appearance? Lu Ping waved his hand and said, "Those things are nothing. It's fate that we met. It's just a small favor." Xing Wu replied in a serious tone. "To senior, the favor you gave me back then may be as easy as lifting a finger, but to this junior, it is of utmost importance. If it weren't for senior's kindness, this junior would still be a mediocre blood-refining realm cultivator." Lu Ping didn't want to talk about this anymore. He saw that although Xing Wu's cultivation wasn't pure, his foundation was solid and his aura was sharp. It was obvious that he often appeared in dangerous places. Lu Ping asked, "Xing Wu, have you joined a sect?" Xing Wu answered, "Reporting to senior, I'm used to living a free and undisciplined life. I'm afraid I won't be noticed by a sect. I've been hunting demonic beasts with a few friends for a living." This time, after Disciple and a few good friends set out to sea, we wanted to sell some of our gains on Universe Island. We never expected to encounter Senior, so we chased after you first with the intention of thanking Senior for helping us all those years ago. I never expected that it would cause Senior to misunderstand. Lu Ping smiled. Seeing Xing Wu's clear eyes, he knew he wasn't lying. Lu Ping said, "Your friends are in the mortal market? I happen to be playing in the mortal market. Let's go see what you've gained." Xing Wu's face lit up and he hurriedly said, "Junior, lead the way." Then, he led the way. Lu Ping looked at Xing Wu's back and smiled noncommittally. He then leisurely followed Xing Wu. Chapter 428. Lu Ping followed Xing Wu into the depths of the mortal market. Xing Wu walked hurriedly with a happy expression on his face. Lu Ping followed behind him at a leisurely pace. At the same time, he had the time to browse through the various items on display at his feet. A moment later, Lu Ping's expression changed and he glanced ahead. However, Xing Wu, who was leading the way for Lu Ping, did not notice it at all. He continued to walk forward with a happy expression. Xing Wu did not think that the cultivator who gave him the spirit stones and pills back then was actually a core forging expert. When he and his companions went out to sea this time, they found a cave left behind by a predecessor. In the cave, they had a plentiful harvest, but there were also many miscellaneous items that they did not recognize. His companions were all independent cultivators, so they were not very knowledgeable. They were not sure of the value of these items, and they were afraid of selling them to the shops in the market. They did not dare to show them to high-grade cultivators, afraid that they would be killed and robbed. Just when everyone was at a loss, Xing Wu found Lu Ping, who was buying spirit herbs in the market. Xing Wu had an extremely deep impression of this senior who had helped him all those years ago. Most importantly, Lu Ping did not treat him like other high-grade cultivators. From the spirit stones and pills that Lu Ping had given him, Xing Wu believed that Lu Ping was not a cultivator with evil intentions. Furthermore, as a core forging cultivator, Lu Ping must be very knowledgeable. The things that Xing Wu and his companions had obtained could be shown to this senior. Xing Wu believed that there must be some valuable treasures among the things that he and his companions had found. If this senior valued them, they would definitely be able to obtain a lot of benefits from this senior. Xing Wu knew that this senior was an alchemist. At this moment, there was a sudden noise in front of them. Xing Wu's expression changed. That was where his companions were. Xing Wu looked behind him and saw that Lu Ping had nodded. Xing Wu hurriedly squeezed into the crowd of onlookers. "This is going to be lively. I just don't know what kind of treasure these little fellows obtained to actually provoke the people from the 10 great sects to forcefully buy it." Lu Ping smiled silently, and the aura of a core forging cultivator spread out. The cultivators around him moved aside, opening a path for Lu Ping. The commotion in the front also stopped. Lu Ping walked in and saw Xing Wu, 3 men and 2 women, arguing with a few blood condensation cultivators. Most of the cultivators who were arguing were at the mid and late blood condensation realm. It was clear that they were trying to suppress Xing Wu's companions. Even though Xing Wu's companions were trying their best to defend themselves, their faces were flushed red. Their strength was too weak and they were clearly at a disadvantage. Lu Ping looked at the cultivators. From their clothes, they should be from Xianling sect, Shui Yan Pavilion, and Feiyu sect. There were also 2 cultivators who were wearing sect uniforms, but they clearly did not belong to the 10 great sections. However, these people were just small fries. Lu Ping glanced at the onlookers behind them with a hint of ridicule in his eyes. Then, he looked at the miscellaneous items placed in front of Xing Wu's companions. He squatted down and began to look through the items as if there was no one else around. Lu Ping roughly looked through the items in front of him and more or less understood what Xing Wu and his companions were in trouble. Most of these items were useless utensils. Moreover, most of the utensils were made from low-grade spiritual materials. It was obvious that these items came from the same cave abode. In other words, Xing Wu and his companions had discovered a cave abode in the sea. Judging from the utensils, the owner of this cave abode might have been a cultivator with a high cultivation when he was alive. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to use low-grade spiritual herbs to make cups, tables, chairs, and bowls. Just as Lu Ping was looking through the items on the ground, a green light flashed in Lu Ping's eyes. He reached out and grabbed something that looked like a broken piece of ceramic. However, at that moment, a loud voice shouted, "Where did this blind fool come from? Xianling sect and Feiyu sect will buy all these things." Scram! Lu Ping frowned. He felt a strong gust of wind in front of him. Lu Ping's spiritual sense was very sensitive. Before the blood condensation realm cultivator made his move, he had already noticed something was amiss. He snorted coldly, and the cultivator who attacked Lu Ping felt as if a sudden clap of thunder had exploded in his ears. Before the technique he sent towards Lu Ping could reach him, the arcane energy in his body was already thrown into chaos by Lu Ping's cold snort. The technique lost control of itself in midair and collapsed. Just as the cultivator made his move, another cultivator in the crowd followed suit. However, his target wasn't Lu Ping, but the Xianling late blood condensation realm disciple who attacked Lu Ping. This cultivator didn't attack the Xianling sect disciple. Instead, he used a defensive artifact to shield the disciple. This was obviously a last-minute scheme against Lu Ping. The goal was to embarrass Lu Ping in front of everyone. However, Lu Ping had already seen through it. Contrary to what the Xianling sect enlightened master had expected, Lu Ping didn't punish the Xianling sect disciple directly. Instead, he used his spiritual sense to attack the Xianling sect disciple, causing him to bleed from his nose and mouth. The Xianling sect enlightened master who had shielded the Xianling sect disciple with his defensive artifact turned pale. The core forging realm disciple's spatial zone had already been shattered. Even if he survived, he would only be a mortal. At the same time, the enlightened master was shocked. This Xianling mid-core forging realm cultivator's spiritual sense was so powerful that he could destroy a late blood condensation realm cultivator's cultivation base. Lu Ping clapped his hands and stood up. He said, "You've got guts. The North Sea Grand Alliance has a rule that cultivators are not allowed to attack each other on Huanyu Island. Does this Xianling sect disciple think that Huanyu Island belongs to him? Does he think he can attack whoever he wants?" Lu Ping looked at the Xianling sect enlightened master who jumped out from the crowd. The enlightened master retracted his defensive artifact and said coldly, "Of course, Huanyu Island doesn't belong to Xianling sect. However, Xianling sect is a part of Huanyu Island. As a core forging realm enlightened master of Zhenling, how dare you kill a low-level cultivator of our sect? What kind of rule does the North Sea Grand Alliance allow you to do that?" Lu Ping laughed, but there was no trace of a smile on his face. He said coldly, "What a joke. I'm a core forging realm cultivator, but I was attacked by a blood condensation realm minor repairs cultivator. If I don't punish him, where will my dignity as a core forging realm cultivator go?" Lu Ping didn't wait for the Xianling sect cultivator to speak and continued, "Speaking of which, I really admire this Xianling blood condensation realm cultivator for having the guts to attack a core forging realm enlightened master, as expected of a disciple of Xianling sect. You're truly bold and skillful. I admire you." As Lu Ping spoke, he cupped his fists at the Xianling sect cultivator who was lying limply on the ground. His words were full of mockery. By now, more and more cultivators had gathered to watch the fight. Many of them laughed out loud when they heard Lu Ping's words. The Xianling sect enlightened master's face flushed red as if blood was about to drip out of his eyes. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that Jinling and Xianling sect were at loggerheads again. Such a situation was not uncommon in the North Sea's cultivation world. However, the strange thing was, where did this Xianling sect disciple get the courage to attack a Jinling core forging realm cultivator? Not to mention, his mouth was so filthy that even death couldn't wipe out his crimes. However, many of the cultivators who were watching the fight from the sidelines saw through the trick. The Xianling sect's core forging realm enlightened master had activated his defensive artifact the moment the Xianling sect disciple made his move. This was obviously a ploy to humiliate the Jinling sect disciple. However, the Jinling enlightened master was already prepared. He used his divine sense to shatter the Xianling sect disciple's hard core, causing Xianling sect to suffer a double loss. This Jinling enlightened master was really powerful. He could shatter a late blood condensation realm cultivator's heart core with just his divine sense. The surrounding cultivators looked at Lu Ping in amazement, but they all took 2 steps back in unison. The circle around them suddenly doubled in size. Good, good! The Xianling sect disciple's face turned ashen. He pointed at Lu Ping and said, "Sir, do you dare to leave your name? I'll have a friendly match outside Huanyu Island. Please don't hesitate to teach me." He turned to a brown-robed cultivator beside him and said, "Junior brother Sha, why don't you stand aside and watch for me?" The brown-robed cultivator looked at Lu Ping with an ugly expression. However, he still pulled the Xianling sect disciple to the side and whispered something to him. From time to time, he turned back to look at Lu Ping and Sha Feiyu. When the Xianling sect disciple returned, he looked at Lu Ping with a dark expression. He didn't mention the friendly match again. He just stood at the side without saying a word, but he didn't leave either. Lu Ping looked at the brown-robed cultivator and knew that he was a perfected master from Feiyu sect. He sneered and didn't say anything. He squatted down again and picked up the broken ceramic shard. Then, he turned to Tsingwu and his companion, who were already scared stiff, and asked, "I want this shard. Do you want spirit stones or medicinal pills in exchange?" The 2 female cultivators who were arguing with the Xianling sect, Feiyu sect, and Shui Yan Pavilion's blood condensation realm disciples were speechless when they heard Lu Ping's question. Their faces were filled with fear. However, Tsingwu reacted quickly and said, "Senior, this is something that my companions and I found while we were exploring overseas. We didn't know what it was at first. If Senior likes it, you can just give me some spirit stones." Lu Ping pondered for a moment and said, "I won't take advantage of you. This ceramic shard should be one of the shards of a spiritual artifact. Although it's broken and doesn't have much value, just this spiritual material alone is worth a lot of spirit stones. Here are 60 mid-grade spirit stones and 6 bottles of blood condensation realm cultivation pills. The 6 of you can split it among yourselves." Tsingwu received the storage bag from Lu Ping with both hands. His face was filled with joy. However, as if he thought of something, his face turned gloomy. His companion behind him was also excited. Obviously, he didn't expect that a piece of ceramic shard could be exchanged for so many cultivation resources. After Tsingwu received the storage bag, he looked at Lu Ping with a pleading expression. Then, he turned around and gathered his companions together. No one knew what they were discussing. Lu Ping saw that Tsingwu was somewhat intelligent, so he wasn't in a hurry and continued to look at the fragments on the ground. Perhaps it was because Tsingwu said something to his companions, but the 6 of them intentionally or unintentionally followed Lu Ping. Lu Ping didn't mind. He entered the private room of the tea house and sat down on a seat. The owner of the tea house was a perceptive person. When he saw that 6 intermediate core forging cultivators had come in, He knew that they had something important to discuss. Without any instructions, he immediately led them to a secluded tea house. He immediately served the top-grade spirit tea and left with the tea boy. At this time, in the tea house, besides Lu Ping, Xiao Weijie Shui Xiu, a cultivator from the Flying Feather sect, Tsing Wu and the others, there were 2 other core forging cultivators. Obviously, they were also the core forging cultivators who were present just now. Lu Ping and the others just sat quietly in the tea house and enjoyed the tea. No one spoke. Tsing Wu and the others stood in the tea house, not knowing what to do. When the 6 core forging enlightened masters had drunk 2/3 of the spirit tea in their hands, enlightened Shui Xiu of the Shui Yan Pavilion smiled and made a few hand signs. A layer of misty water vapor suddenly floated in the tea house. Lu Ping spread out his divine sense and found that the tea house was surrounded by a faint layer of almost invisible mist. This layer of mist could block the probing of divine sense and prevent the content of their conversation from being heard by others. "Ha, senior brothers, you can say what your plans are now. But before we discuss the important matters, shouldn't you introduce yourselves first? Since this little sister has spoken first, I will throw out a brick to start a jade. This little sister is Shui Xiu, the 4th disciple of enlightened Shui Qingru of the Shui Yan Pavilion. Xiao Weijie of the Xianling sect, the disciple of enlightened Lu Xiuheng." Lu Ping was stunned. Lu Ping had seen this enlightened master Lu Xiuheng on Frost Island before. He was a very famous late core forging realm cultivator of Xianling sect. He also had hopes of breaking through to the Transcendence realm. "Fei Yu Sex Han Fei, the disciple of enlightened master Zhao Wuji." When it was Lu Ping's turn, Lu Ping just said indifferently, "Jinling Lu Xianping," and no longer said anything. Xiao Weijie sneered and said, "You are very arrogant. You don't even need to introduce your own master. I think Brother Lu will establish his own sect in the future." Lu Ping glanced at Xiao Weijie and smiled faintly, but he didn't say anything. His eyes were full of contempt. Xiao Weijie saw Lu Ping's expression, and the hostility on his body became more and more fierce, but there was also some fear in his eyes. The people in the tea room saw this, but no one said anything. Xianling sect and Jinling sect had been fighting for a long time. Both sects occupied a special position in the North Sea. When the 2 sects were fighting, most of the other sects would remain neutral or silent. No one would participate. Xiao Weijie finally restrained the hostility on his body. He just stared at Lu Ping with a pair of eyes that seemed to want to devour him. Lu Ping, however, was very calm. He filled the teacup with the boiling spirit spring water again. When Dao Master Shui Xiu saw that the fight between the 2 wouldn't escalate, she smiled at the other 2 core forging realm cultivators and asked, "The 2 of you are from the Siyu sect? This little sister greets you. May I know how to address you?" The 2 core forging cultivators who came in with her quickly stood up and returned the greeting. Although the sect they belonged to was also famous in the North Sea, it was obviously not on the same level as the top 10 sections. The mid-stage core forging cultivator answered very politely. "Fairy Shui Xiu is too polite. We are indeed from Yu Hai sect. I am Qian Shu, and this is my junior brother Yang Sanyang. Greetings, fellow Taoists." Lu Ping and the others also greeted them. Although Yu Hai sect was not a big sect in the North Sea, it was still a sect that was overseen by Fa Xiang Laozu. Lu Ping's arrogance was only directed at Xianling sect. Lu Ping and the others also had to treat cultivators from famous sects in the North Sea like Yu Hai sect politely. Even if they could not rope them in, they must not easily become enemies with them. When Dao Master Shui Xiu saw that everyone already knew each other, she clapped her hands and said, "Since everyone knows each other, it must be fate. Now that there are no outsiders here, we can speak frankly. It seems that these few blood condensation realm cultivators have discovered a cave abode of a predecessor. Moreover, judging from the miscellaneous items here, I'm afraid these few young friends have gained quite a lot." Other than Lu Ping, the other enlightened master's eyes were fixed on Tsing Wu and the others. The 6 of them stood in the middle of the tea room, sweating profusely as if they were carrying a heavy burden on their backs. Tsing Wu gritted his teeth and said nothing. His expression fluctuated as if he had already guessed the enlightened master's goal. His companions behind him were at a loss. Lu Ping waved his hand, and the cultivators immediately felt relieved. Xing Wu looked gratefully at Lu Ping. Xiao Weijie snorted coldly and said nothing. Everyone also turned to look at Lu Ping. Dao Master Shueishiu frowned slightly and said, "Senior brother Lu, do you have any objections?" Lu Ping's face was cold, and he didn't say anything. Instead, Xing Wu suddenly took out a few items from his interspatial pouch and placed them on the table. He said, "Seniors, these are the treasures we found in the cave dwelling in the ocean. Now, not only can we not use these treasures, but they will also attract the covetous eyes of others. Therefore, we would like to present these treasures to the seniors so that we can make the best use of them." As soon as Xing Wu finished speaking, the expressions of his 5 companions changed. One of them, a female cultivator, shouted, "Big brother Xing, you can't? These are treasures we obtained after risking our lives." Xing Wu decisively said, "All right, I will explain this matter to you later. For now, it's settled." The female cultivator didn't say anything. Her companions also revealed resentful expressions. But they didn't have the courage to refute in front of the Tao Masters. Xiao Weijie proudly glanced at Lu Ping. But he saw that Lu Ping happened to glance at Xing Wu, and his eyes revealed a trace of admiration. Xiao Weijie felt a little strange, but he didn't care about Lu Ping's expression. Instead, he said, "Brother Lu, this is considered as a dog trying to catch a mouse. They may not appreciate it." Lu Ping didn't pay any attention to Xiao Weijie's ridicule. Xiao Weijie had asked for a rebuff, so he awkwardly shut his mouth and didn't speak anymore. Dao Master Shueishiu saw that Xiao Weijie had suffered a setback. She was afraid that the two of them would fight again. So, she hastily said, "How about this? You all give us your storage magic tools, and we will only take away the things that you found in the senior cultivator's cave mansion that are useful to us. Of course, we won't take advantage of you for free. We will leave enough spirit stones and elixirs for you to use in your cultivation." Xing Wu's face turned pale when he heard this. He knew that these so-called senior cultivators had their eyes on the things left behind in the cave mansion that they had found. He thought that these senior cultivators would more or less let them go after he took out his harvest from the cave mansion. However, at this moment, they had a deeper understanding of the cultivation world. The law of the jungle was admittedly the immortal truth of the cultivation world. However, the true experts in the cultivation world weren't those cultivators with profound cultivation bases, but the great clans and sections. They were the true predators that stood at the highest level of the cultivation world. Lu Ping knitted his brows tightly. He wasn't disgusted by this kind of behavior. In the past, the great clans and sects had been the ones who carried out the most extortion in the cultivation world. For example, the large spirit stone mine on the Frost Island had originally been monopolized by the 10 great sects and schools. Later on, the 10 great sects and schools, which were second only to the 10 great sects and schools, had joined forces. They had only managed to get 30% of the share from the 10 great sects and schools. However, the level of extortion by the great clans and sects and schools was too high. Ordinary cultivators couldn't feel this kind of inequality, and thus couldn't empathize with them. As a matter of fact, what Tao Master Shueishiu and the others had done was within Lu Ping's expectations. He wouldn't have tried to stop them, as that would have isolated Lu Ping. However, at this moment, Lu Ping felt pity for them. He didn't want these cultivators to die in front of him because they had resisted such humiliation. As expected, as soon as Tao Master Shueishiu's voice faded away, a male cultivator behind Xing Wu shouted angrily, "You've gone too far! You've gone too far! We'd rather die than submit!" Tao Master Shueishiu's previously smiling face turned frosty. Yang Sanan, a cultivator at the early stage of the core forging realm from the UC sect, rebuked him angrily. "How dare you! Youngsters, you're courting death!" As soon as he finished speaking, he was about to attack and kill the 6 people. However, before Tao Master Yang Sanan could attack, Xing Wu and the others were suddenly surrounded by a dense blue light. A few miserable shrieks came from within the blue light. When the blue light dissipated, Tsing Wu and the others looked at the expressionless Lu Ping in front of them in fright. The other Taoists didn't know what had happened within the blue light. They only saw 6 storage bags in Lu Ping's hands. Lu Ping abruptly opened his palm that was holding the interspatial pouches, and a few sharp sword energies sliced the 6 interspatial pouches in his hand apart. The contents of the interspatial pouches fell to the ground with a clatter. At the side, Tao Master Yang Sanyang's eyes lit up. He reached out to grab one of the black stones. A dense blue light suddenly overflowed from the ground, submerging all the items on the ground. When the blue light spread, Tao Master Yang Sanyang's pupils shrank, but he still grabbed the black stone that was submerged by the blue light without hesitation. However, the surface of his palm was also wrapped in a layer of intense flames like the sun's flames. However, just when the flaming palm came into contact with the blue light, Tao Master Yang Sanyang snorted and withdrew his hand at a speed faster than when he stretched out his hand. Although Tsing Wu was imprisoned on the ground by Tao Master Lu Xianping and could not move, his eyes were still there. He clearly saw that when the flaming palm came into contact with the blue light, the flames that were jumping upwards strangely began to jump downwards. It was as if the flames on the palm were attracted downwards by the blue light, and then it was continuously swallowed by the blue light. In just a moment, Tao Master Yang Sanyang's flaming palm was almost only left with the palm, and the flames were completely gone. The blue light on the ground only had a faint layer of ripples. Not only did the light not weaken, but it became even thicker. Tao Master Yang Sanyang's expression was uncertain as he looked at Lu Ping with a trace of fear in his eyes. Another Siyu sect cultivator, Qian Shu, coughed and said, "Junior brother, you were rash this time." After saying that, he politely cupped his hands at Lu Ping and said, "What is Tao Master Lu's rule?" After Lu Ping made his move, for some reason, Xiao Weijia of the Water sect and Han Fei of the Soaring Feather sect all remained silent at the same time. Lu Ping waved his hand, and the few items that had sunk into the blue light, including the black stone that Tao Master Yang Sanyang had tried to snatch, were placed among the items that Tsing Wu had handed over. Then, he said, "From my initial understanding of this cave abode, these treasures should have come from the same cave abode. The other items on the ground are all blood condensation realm cultivators' items, so I believe they are of no interest to you. I will return them to these minor repairs to deal with." Tao Master Yang Sanyang snorted unwillingly, then touched his hand that had almost sunk into the blue light. A faint trace of poison had just been forced out by him, turning into a fine, curling substance. He didn't expect that this person's chi of vigor would actually contain poison. Just this trace of poison had cost him so much effort to force it out, and he had almost embarrassed himself in front of everyone. When everyone saw that Lu Ping had actually returned the scattered items on the ground to Tsing Wu and the other 5, they couldn't help but look at each other. Was he going to let them go? It had to be known that this cave abode, Lu Ping and the others could tell that there were precious treasures inside. It was just that these 6 blood condensation realm minor repairs clearly didn't have the ability to excavate it again. After being discovered by everyone, they had no choice but to give up the cave abode that they had obtained. According to everyone's intentions, Tsing Wu and the others were obviously going to be killed. If they were allowed to live, news of them going out to search for a cave abode would definitely spread. At that time, the entire city would be in an uproar, and Lu Ping and the others wouldn't be able to reap all the benefits for themselves. Tsing Wu and the others had already closed their eyes and waited for death. Now, not only did they come back from the brink of death, they even managed to recover a portion of their cultivation resources. How could they dare to have any more extravagant hopes? Daoist Shuixiu frowned and said doubtfully, "Senior brother Lu, isn't this a little inappropriate?" Lu Ping didn't answer. Instead, he turned to Tsing Wu and the others and asked, "Which of you will be the guide?" Tsing Wu clenched his teeth and said, "Senior, this junior is willing to go. But please let these junior's companions go." Lu Ping didn't say anything. Instead, he suddenly glared at Tsing Wu, and the 5 companions behind him lost consciousness at the same time. Lu Ping snapped his fingers, and the pocket-sized man's expression changed. He found that a hole had suddenly appeared in the restriction spell he had set up in the tea room with the snap of Lu Ping's fingers. The sound of the finger snap spread out of the tea room. After a while, a knocking sound came from the tea room's door. Taoist Shui Xiu had no choice but to reopen the restriction spell of the tea room. The door opened, and the boss of the tea room stood at the door. He bowed and said, "What can I do for you, masters?" The boss of the tea room stood outside the door with his eyes drooped. He didn't seem to care about the situation in the tea room. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and threw out a jade token. He then said, "Send these cultivators to Jinling Huangli Island and hand them over to Master Hu. You only need to give this jade token to Master Hu when the time comes." The boss of the tea room respectfully complied and called a few tea boys to carry the people out. Taoist Shui Xiu rearranged the restriction spell of the tea room in a somewhat displeased manner. She said, "Master Lu, you really don't need to worry. Aren't you afraid that the boss will wake these people up and reveal our whereabouts?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "The boss of the tea room won't do anything stupid in the Snowy Mist Palace." Everyone in the tea room felt a chill in their hearts. The distance from the tea room to the Snowy Mist Palace was 8 to 9 miles. This distance was enough to cover the range of a late core forging cultivator's divine sense. In other words, Lu Ping's current divine sense was no weaker than a late core forging cultivator's. Chapter 430. After sending off Tsing Wu's 5 companions, everyone's eyes fell on the dozens of objects placed on the ground. Lu Ping didn't stand on ceremony and took the lead to look at all the objects on the ground. Although Qiao Weijie and Dao Master Shui Xiu didn't look too good, either of them said anything. At this time, after the short contest, everyone in the tea house had undoubtedly recognized Lu Ping's strength. Lu Ping being the first to choose the objects on the ground was a manifestation of this recognition. When Lu Ping returned to his seat, he was already holding 3 objects in his hand. One of them was the black stone that Dao Master Yang Sanyang wanted at the beginning. Seeing that the black stone was picked up by Lu Ping, Dao Master Yang Sanyang's eyes twitched, but he didn't say anything. Lu Ping threw a bottle of medicinal pills to Tsing Wu and said, "This bottle of medicinal pills is already useless to me, but it will be quite useful for your future cultivation." At this time, the shackles on Tsing Wu's body had been removed by Lu Ping. Tsing Wu, who regained control of his body, still stood cautiously in the tea house, not daring to show a trace of emotion on his face. After Lu Ping, Qiao Weijie picked 2 more objects, followed by Dao Master Shui Xiu and Dao Master Qian Shu of Yuhai Sect. After Dao Master Han Fei of Soaring Feather Sect picked 2 more objects, the remaining 3 objects were just some ordinary top-grade spiritual materials and blood condensation realm medicinal pills. Naturally, Dao Master Yang Sanyang didn't care about these things. He just casually kept the objects on the ground. While everyone was choosing their items, Lu Ping waited quietly on the side. Of the 3 items he had chosen earlier, other than the bottle of medicinal pellets that was specially chosen for Tsing Wu, the black stone was called the Crimson Flame Stone. It was a fire attribute heaven and earth unique treasure. Unlike other fire attribute heaven and earth unique treasures that existed in the form of fire seeds, the Crimson Flame Stone itself wasn't a fire seed. However, it had a unique property. It could temporarily enhance the quality of other fire seeds. In fact, Lu Ping knew of several similar methods. For example, he could use wood elemental spirit materials as fuel or use spirit stones to cast spirit explosion art. All of these methods could enhance the fire seed's power. However, these methods only enhanced the fire seed's power and not its grade. But this Crimson Blaze Rock was different. When used in conjunction with the fire seed's power would be enhanced to a whole new level until the Crimson Blaze Rock was completely burned away by the fire seed. Although the mysterious sky spirit burning fire could also be enhanced by a level with the support of spirit stones, that was only the characteristics of the mysterious sky spirit burning fire. Without the Scarlet Flame Stone, other fire seeds would not have such a function. Lu Ping played with the scarlet flame stone in his hand and was a little hesitant. If he also put the scarlet flame stone into the 7 thunder treasures calabash, the power of the heaven and earth strange fire in the thunder calabash would definitely be greatly enhanced, but the number of fire seeds would not increase, and there would still be only one strange fire. After thinking about it, Lu Ping temporarily put away the scarlet flame stone and did not put it into the 7 thunder treasures calabash. The other item was a second-grade peak-grade spiritual material. It was also a treasure that Lu Ping planned to use to enhance the quality of the golden scale sword. After the golden scale sword was upgraded to a spiritual treasure by Lu Ping, the quality of the golden scale sword could no longer be guaranteed to continue increasing the quality of the golden scale sword. If he wanted to carve the 5th or 6th spiritual treasure restriction on the golden scale sword, he would need to enhance the quality of the golden scale sword. Previously, when Lu Ping chose a large piece of crystal jade from Tian Shui Lao's treasury, it was for this purpose. Now, Lu Ping discovered that among the spiritual materials that Xing Wu and the rest found in the cave, there was actually an emerald jade. This was also a second-grade spiritual material that could be used to enhance the quality of the golden scale sword. With these 2 spiritual materials in hand, Lu Ping was confident that he could enhance the quality of the golden scale sword to the point where it could withstand the 5th spiritual treasure restriction. As for the 6th spiritual treasure restriction, it might be a little difficult. After all, Lu Ping knew very little about refining weapons. He needed to ask Chen Lian before he could know. After Reverend Yang Sanyang kept the remaining 3 items, Reverend Shui Xiu smiled and said, "There's no time to lose. It's better for us to hurry to the cave as soon as possible." Everyone knew that they were most afraid of accidents happening in this kind of matter. Therefore, after the group of 7 came out from the tea house, they hurriedly walked out of the Universal Island. Suddenly, a clear bird cry came from the sky above the depths of the sea. Suddenly, a huge black dot appeared on the distant sea surface. The black dot's speed was extremely fast. Just as the bird cry was heard, the black dot had already flown close to them. It was a huge Luan bird. The green and red-colored tail feathers made the Luan bird look majestic. The Luan bird flew to the sky above the sea, and circled back and forth twice. It seemed as if it was confirming something. Then 2 human silhouettes suddenly appeared on the back of the Luan bird, and slowly floated down from it. Xing Wu stood behind Lu Ping. Lu Ping used his divine sense to explore the surroundings of the seabed. Then, he casually asked, "Is this the place?" Xing Wu respectfully replied from behind Lu Ping, "Yes, it's here. Last time, we chased after a demonic beast in this place. We happened to find the cave at the bottom of the sea." Lu Ping nodded. He stood on the sea surface and didn't move. The huge Luan bird in the sky suddenly chirped twice. Its body rapidly shrank in the sky. Finally, it turned into a beautiful green and red bird that was more than a foot long. It landed on Lu Ping's shoulder and started to sing. Its clear and melodious cry spread far and wide on the sea surface. The demonic beasts that were cruising in this part of the sea seemed to have received some kind of signal when they heard the little bird's song. Then, they started to avoid it one after another. After a while, a few rays of light appeared in the sky and rushed towards Lu Ping's direction at high speed. After the rays of light descended, Daoist Shui Xiu, Qiao Weijie, and the other 4 people emerged from the rays of light. Everyone looked at the little bird on Lu Ping's shoulder, and their faces revealed a look of amazement. At the same time, they looked at Lu Ping with an even more intense look of dread in their eyes. Daoist Shui Xiu smiled and said, "Senior brother Lu's demon pet is very fast. We can't catch up to it." Lu Ping smiled and didn't say anything. Instead, he pointed to the sea surface and said, "The cave should be at the bottom of the sea. Since everyone is here, let's get started." Lu Ping's voice had barely faded when his figure suddenly transformed into 2 masses of flowing water. He drilled into the sea along with Xing Wu, and disappeared without a trace. Everyone glanced at each other. They didn't dare to lag behind, and each of them displayed their own methods. Daoist Shui Xiu's figure exploded, and turned into a mass of water mist. Then, he shrunk back into the sea. Xiao Weijie looked at the position where Lu Ping and Daoist Shui Xiao had disappeared into the sea. He sneered twice, and his figure smashed into the sea. A loud sound was heard along with the soaring waves. When the sea surface calmed down, he had already disappeared without a trace. Han Fei, Qian Shu, and Yang Sanyang also displayed their own methods, and went deep into the sea. There was a towering underwater mountain range only 100 feet away from the sea surface. Everyone once again went more than 1,000 feet deep into the sea. Then, they found the entrance to a cave in a hidden location on the mountainside of the underwater mountain range. They waited until they had gone more than 100 feet into the cave. But they found that the seawater was blocked by a layer of light shield after they had gone more than 100 feet into the cave. Everyone knew that this should be the effect of the cave's formation. Daoist Shui Xiao and the others entered the cave. They found that there was a spacious hall in the cave. It seemed as if the belly of the entire mountain range had been hollowed out. Chapter 431. Looking at the empty hall in the middle of the mountain, it was obvious that the things here had been looted by Tsing Wu and his companions. Finally, the important things had been seized from them by Lu Ping and the others. Tsing Wu looked around the empty hall. He tried his best to calm down. Moreover, he could tell from the conversation of the few spiritual masters that there must be some secret in this cave mansion that Tsing Wu and his companions had yet to discover. However, his eyes were still filled with curiosity. How could these spiritual masters discover something in this empty hall that they hadn't discovered? However, before Tsing Wu's wish could be fulfilled, Xiao Weijie looked at Lu Ping. Tsing Wu's mind seemed to have received a heavy blow, and his consciousness suddenly became fuzzy. Lu Ping said lightly, "He won't wake up for 5 days." Xiao Weijie sneered, but didn't say anything. Spiritual Master Shui Xiao said with a smile, "Seeing your brother Lu's divine sense cultivation is amazing. Since it's 5 days, it shouldn't be wrong." Seeing that Tsing Wu had fainted on the ground, Taoist Han Fei's footsteps paused, and the entire mountainside shook with a rumbling sound, as if an earthquake was going to happen. The ground a few feet in front of everyone suddenly collapsed, and a pitch-black hole appeared in front of everyone. At the same time, a dense spiritual energy gushed out from the hole. Everyone's face lit up with joy. They walked towards the hole. Lu Ping didn't follow everyone in. Instead, he made a few hand signs. A blue halo overflowed from Lu Ping's palm, and wrapped around Tsing Wu, who had fainted on the ground. Then, the blue halo gradually faded until it disappeared. Tsing Wu also disappeared from the ground. Lu Ping used his divine sense to explore the ground under his feet. Then, he walked towards the hole in the ground with satisfaction. The hole in the ground was a flight of stairs that extended diagonally downward. The walls on both sides of the stairs were inlaid with starlight stones. Although they were dim, they could still illuminate the passageway. When Lu Ping walked down the stairs, what appeared in front of him was an underground building complex that was formed by several palaces. This was the real core of this underground cave mansion. Lu Ping and the others found some of the more complicated remnants of restrictions among some of the miscellaneous items that Tsing Wu's companions had taken away. From this, they could infer that there must be another world in this cave mansion. The entire building complex was covered by an array. Moreover, within the array, the buildings, passageways, and gardens were protected by layers of colorful restrictions. Obviously, in order to obtain benefits from this small building complex, Lu Ping and the others not only had to break through the protective array, but they also had to break through various restrictions. However, restrictions were different from array formations. An array formation was like a wall used to protect the cave mansion, while restrictions were like the various traps set up in the buildings and passageways of the cave mansion. When a cave mansion's protective array was broken through, it was just like when a city's city wall was broken through. However, just like the invaders who broke through the city wall would have to face more severe street battles, the foreign cultivators who broke through the protective array would also have to face these complicated and intertwined restrictions. When Lu Ping walked to the front of the protective array, he found that there were already 3 broken holes on the top of the array. At this time, the holes were slowly closing under the operation of the array. Obviously, it was the masterpiece of Qiao Weijie and the others who had arrived here first. After pondering for a moment, Lu Ping understood that these 3 holes should have been opened by Qiao Weijie and Han Fei, Qian Shu and Yang Sanyang, and Reverend Xue Xiu. Lu Ping naturally wouldn't enter through these 3 holes. Needless to say, Lu Ping knew that after these 3 holes were opened, they would be followed by many restrictive spells and traps to prevent the later cultivators from taking the path of retreat of those who entered first. Once Lu Ping entered, he would immediately be discovered by the cultivators who opened the path before him, and would regard Lu Ping as an enemy. Moreover, he would also have to face the restrictive spells and traps and ambushes set up by those cultivators who entered first. In this way, it would instead delay Lu Ping's exploration of this cave mansion. After thinking for a moment, Lu Ping first pulled De Bao out from the golden house that he was carrying on his chest. Then, De Bao's sharp beak and several long whiskers arched against the ground twice. His 2 front paws that were buried under his fat body barely scratched the ground twice. Then, he turned his head and gave 2 squeaks towards Lu Ping. As expected, Lu Ping nodded his head. The ground here had already been sealed by the array. Obviously, it was impossible for De Bao to enter the array by burrowing through the ground. Lu Ping pointed at a spot in the array and a white bolt of lightning descended. The area that was struck by the lightning suddenly froze and gradually cracked. Then, Lu Ping sent out 2 more bolts of lightning in succession, and the cracked barrier suddenly shattered. Then, Lu Ping walked into the array with a fat mouse following behind him. After Lu Ping and De Bao entered the array, the cracks in the array that were covered in frost began to glow again. The frost gradually melted and the broken barrier began to slowly recover like the 3 holes from before. After entering the array, the density of the spirit force became even denser. Moreover, because these corals were old and mature, most of the spiritual materials contained within them had reached the level of top-tier spiritual materials. After being separated, they could be used to refine other top-tier magic tools. After Lu Ping put 22 of these corals into his storage ring, the last 2 corals made Lu Ping happy again. These 2 corals were slightly shorter than the other 22 corals, but the spirit halos contained within them were much denser than the other corals. Lu Ping's eyes shone with green light. After a long time, he happily put these 2 corals into the golden house. The spiritual materials contained within these 2 corals had obviously been affected by the spirit object of the heaven and earth. They had mutated into second-tier top-tier spiritual materials. However, Lu Ping could not find any trace of the spirit object of the heaven and earth in the corals even after using the true pupils of 3 pure ones. After a while, he realized that these corals were obviously found by the owner of the cave. If there was a spirit object of the heaven and earth in these corals, it would have been taken away by the owner of the cave long ago. Lu Ping turned around and continued to walk towards the inner part of the cave. At this time, the rumbling sounds of magic arts resounded in succession from other directions. Judging from the direction of the sound and the hole that was opened outside the magic array, Lu Ping deduced that the most intense rumbling sounds were coming from Qiao Weijie and Han Fei. Judging from the current situation, these 2 were obviously the fastest in their progress. Following closely behind them was Taoist Xue Xiu, not Qian Shu and Yang Sanyang. However, there were very few rumbling sounds coming from Taoist Xue Xiu's direction. Usually, there would only be a few explosive sounds after a period of time. Moreover, compared to the direction where the previous rumbling sounds came from, Taoist Xue Xiu had undoubtedly advanced towards the innermost layer of the cave. It seemed that this Taoist Xue Xiu should be a cultivator proficient in the art of breaking restrictions. Previously, he had been using the art of breaking restrictions to advance. Only when he encountered a restriction that he could not break would he have no choice but to use magic arts to forcibly break it. This was the reason why the interval between the rumbling sounds coming from Taoist Xue Xiu's direction was so long. The slowest ones were Qian Shu and Yang Sanyang from Siyu sect. Although their progress was slow, they were very rhythmic in breaking the restrictions. They weren't like Xiao Weijie and Han Fei, who didn't hesitate to use their true essence to bombard the restrictions indiscriminately. Clearly, these two brothers had a tacit understanding with each other. Lu Ping was secretly vigilant. At the same time, he unconsciously sped up the speed of breaking the restrictions. He chased after the others. At the same time, the house of gold on his chest radiated with golden light. Then, 3 8 or 9-year-old boys and a 12 or 13-year-old girl appeared behind Lu Ping. Lu Bai, Lu Hai, and Lu Ling will follow father to break the restrictions. Qin will be responsible for defending against all kinds of traps and attacks when the restrictions are forcibly broken. As a matter of fact, the Blue Phoenix's explosive attacks were the fastest way to break the restrictions. However, the counterattacks of the restrictions would be more powerful and endless. Therefore, Lu Ping would be tired of dealing with them. Therefore, Lu Ping simply let Samling assist him in breaking the restrictions. Samling's combined strength was above that of the Blue Phoenix, which had already advanced to the second layer of core forging realm. Moreover, although Samling's attacks weren't as violent and grand as the Blue Phoenix's, their might wasn't the slightest bit weaker. Lu Ping could directly break some restrictions by using the restriction breaking technique. If he couldn't, Samling would immediately join forces to assist Lu Ping in breaking the restrictions by force. The counterattacks of the restrictions would be blocked by Lu Qiner. Debao would also raise 1 or 2 earth walls from the ground from time to time. However, most of them would be crushed as easily as breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. 1 man and 4 demons advanced together. In a short while, their progress had surpassed Qian Shu and Yang Sanyang of the UC sect. They were approaching Taoist Shui Xiu's progress. Moreover, they were hindered by Debao from time to time. Under Debao's strong request, they broke the restrictions on both sides. This had affected Lu Ping's progress. However, Debao had discovered a few withered spiritual herb gardens among these broken restrictions. He had harvested a lot of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs from them. There were also a dozen 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs that had survived by luck. And Lu Ping had personally plucked them. The layout of this underground cave mansion was extremely compact. There were 4 lofts distributed around the central palace. Lu Ping was approaching one of them. He was sitting in the direction of the other loft. Xiao Weijie and Han Fei had already broken the restrictions of the loft. The booming sound of magic spells was getting more and more intense. It seemed as if the loft would also collapse under the bombardment. Lu Ping's progress had already caught up with Taoist Shui Xiu. Lu Ping was delighted when he saw the restriction in front of the loft. His hands were like butterflies flying through flowers. He made 42 hand gestures in succession. A loud rumbling sound was heard. The light curtain of the restriction in front of Lu Ping suddenly collapsed backward. Then, a 5-colored door appeared in front of Lu Ping. Debao didn't wait for Lu Ping to call out to him. He had already rushed into the loft. Lu Ping instructed Samling to guard the door. Then, he and Lu Qiner followed Debao into the loft. There were many bookshelves placed against the walls of the loft. Not only were there many paper books, but there were also piles of wooden slips. There were also some jade slips placed on top of them. An ordinary wooden table was placed in the middle of the loft. A teapot and 4 teacups were placed on top of it. One of the teacups was not inverted on the table like the other 3 teacups. Instead, it was placed on the edge of the wooden table where the reclining chair was placed. The tea in the teacup had already dried up. There were only faint tea stains and dust that were about to cover the tea stains. There was an open paper book on the edge of the teacup. It was also covered with dust. It seemed as if the owner of the cave mansion was enjoying tea and reading in this loft at a specific time. Lu Ping saw a thin bulge on the dusty book. His heart stirred. He waved his hand to brush off the dust on the book. A thin jade slip was revealed. Lu Ping was delighted. He hastily used his divine sense to explore the contents of the jade slip. Lu Ping slowly put down the jade slip after some time. Then, he carefully placed it in his storage ring. After that, he started to walk back and forth among the bookshelves in the loft. Debeo dragged a clay pot out of nowhere and ran towards Lu Ping. Chapter 432. The old man, Qing Jian, has been practicing for more than 900 years, and has been in the Dharma stage for more than 200 years. The old man knew that he would not be able to survive the calamity of the mid-Dharma stage, so he had been struggling with his limited training for the past few decades. Now that his lifespan had been exhausted, he had no choice but to face the calamity. If he were to die here, I will pass on the legacy of the old man. Lu Ping understood the above information from a jade scroll that was placed on top of the open book. Clearly, this was a message that Qin Jian Laozu had left behind in a hurry before he had to face the calamity of the mid-Dharma stage. However, after this message, it recorded Qin Jian Laozu's techniques, as well as Qin Jian Laozu's experiences in training. From the blood condensation stage all the way to the early Dharma stage, Qin Jian Laozu had condensed his 900 years of training experience into a jade scroll. He had also tried his best to answer all the questions that might arise at each stage of training. Although Lu Ping could not directly inherit this technique, the experiences in training were extremely important for Lu Ping's future training. Furthermore, this was a set of techniques that could be directly trained to the mid-Dharma stage. Although Qin Jian Laozu had only trained to the early Dharma stage, if he brought this set of techniques back to Jinling, it would be a well-known set of techniques and a strong foundation. The Jade Scroll also gave a simple explanation of the cave dwelling's situation. However, it was different from the cultivation technique inheritance that had been prepared long ago. The introduction to the cave dwelling itself was extremely brief, and even the first paragraph recorded in the Jade Scroll seemed to have been written in a hurry. Lu Ping couldn't help but suspect that Ancestor Clearstream had been reading and sipping tea in the study when the mid-stage Dharma stage tribulation suddenly descended. Ancestor Clearstream didn't have time to leave any detailed arrangements before he hurriedly went to face the tribulation. In the end, he was annihilated in the tribulation. Lu Ping thought of the pile of debris that Xingwu and the others had collected in the hall in the middle of the mountain. There were many fragments of treasures that had been destroyed, and there were still remnants of some high-level treasures. Lu Ping could not help but wonder if these fragments, which were obviously treasures, had been destroyed by Qin Jian Laozu when he was fighting against the calamity? If that was the case, the place where Qin Jian Laozu had gone through the calamity should have been in the hall in the middle of the mountain. Lu Ping followed the general direction that Qin Jian Laozu had left in the Jade Scroll and began to look at the books, wooden scrolls, jade scrolls, and other documents that were placed on the shelves around the attic. However, when he walked closer, he realized that the paper books had been corroded by time and had long been reduced to a pile of dust. Some of the threads that connected the wooden scrolls had long been destroyed, and most of the wooden scrolls had also rotted away. Only a small portion of the scrolls could still be seen clearly, and most of them were broken pages. Lu Ping thought about it for a while, then carefully placed all the wooden scrolls that he could see into a jade box for safekeeping, and then placed it in his storage ring. There were dozens of jade scrolls on the bookshelves, which were also the foundation of Qin Jian Laozu's cultivation over the years. Lu Ping roughly looked at them. Although the number of jade scrolls was small, the content contained in each one was sufficient. One of the jade scrolls recorded 5 kinds of elixirs for the mid-core forging stage and 3 kinds of elixirs for the late-core forging stage. There were also 2 kinds of elixirs for the half-step to the transcendent stage, and 1 for the transcendent stage. This made Lu Ping excited. Now that Lu Ping's cultivation progress had slowed down, he had already collected all kinds of elixir recipes that were suitable for him to take. However, none of the 5 mid-core forging stage elixirs recorded in the Jade Scrolls were currently mastered by Lu Ping. Moreover, the method of alchemy revealed in these elixir recipes was not the same as the usual alchemy style of the North Sea. Obviously, it was not from the North Sea, and the alchemy of the North Sea was of the same origin as the East Sea, so these elixir recipes were obviously not from the East Sea. Of the two types of elixirs for the half-step to the transcendent stage, one was used by cultivators who had condensed their golden core, and the other was a type of elixir that helped to break through to the transcendent stage. However, this elixir was more like a secret technique. One was a secret technique that used external force to forcibly raise a 6th-grade golden core cultivator to the transcendent stage. The only elixir for the transcendent stage shocked Lu Ping even more. This elixir recipe was called the minor forging elixir. At the beginning, it stated that this elixir was created based on the peerless elixir of the Fei Ling sect, the spirit forging elixir. Although this elixir did not have the magical effect of directly raising a golden core's rank like the spirit forging elixir, it could help a cultivator achieve the golden core's rank more smoothly by smelting the heaven and earth's spirit treasures. Everyone knew that regardless of whether a 9th-layer core forging cultivator refined 1 or 2 low-grade heaven-rank spirit items, they would still have a 7th-grade golden core. However, whether it was in terms of foundation or future achievements, the latter was stronger than the former and had a higher chance of success. However, just this minor spirit forging pill required 36 types of 3,000-year-old spirit grasses. The real spirit forging pill required 49 types of extremely precious 3,000-year-old spirit grasses, and it also required a rare item called the Myriad Wonder Nectar. Unfortunately, Lu Ping didn't even know what the Myriad Wonder Nectar was. As for the minor spirit forging pill, it required a spirit liquid called the Vitality Nectar. This spirit liquid itself was refined from some precious spirit grasses, and its effect was equivalent to a 3-year-old longevity pill. The minor forging elixir was created more than 1,000 years after the destruction of the Fei Ling sect. Although Lu Ping did not know when Qingjian Laozu was born and died, he guessed that it was no more than 3,000 years ago. The other jade slips also contained many records that Lu Ping was interested in. For example, there were records about some rare flowers and herbs, methods to identify natural spirit objects, and some people in the Central Plains. Of course, there were also some cultivation methods and secret techniques that Qingjian Laozu had accumulated for nearly 1,000 years. Of course, there were also some information about refining weapons, formations, talismans, puppets, and so on. Although a cultivator might not be able to reach the pinnacle in one of the 100 arts of cultivation in their lifetime, the only person who could cover such a wide range of knowledge and master it so thoroughly was Laozu. This foundation was even more profound than Qingjian Laozu's cultivation methods in the Dharma realm. With this accumulation, as long as Lu Ping spread his descendants, he could easily establish an independent family in the North Sea in a few hundred years. Lu Ping searched around with his divine thoughts, and at the same time, he also used the 3 pure true eyes. After finding nothing new, Lu Ping turned his attention to a clay pot that De Bao had dragged out from a corner. This clay pot did not look special from the surface, but this thin cylindrical small clay pot still contained half a pot of top-grade spiritual tea, which made Lu Ping's eyes light up. Lu Ping pinched a little of the spiritual tea and put it under his nose to sniff it. It turned out to be the famous refreshing tea in the cultivation world. This kind of spiritual tea had great benefits for calming a cultivator's mind, and it was even beneficial for the cultivation of a cultivator's divine sense or divine thoughts. This kind of spiritual tea was extremely rare in the North Sea, almost on the verge of extinction. Only some Dharma adept Laozu who loved tea might have some in his collection. This spiritual tea had not decayed after thousands of years, and it seemed to be the effect of this clay pot. Lu Ping carefully examined this unusually coarse clay pot, and found that this clay pot actually had the same effect as the Infinite Wonder Jade Essence bottle that Lu Ping had seen in the North Sea Palace on Huanyu Island. That was, after thousands of years, the contents stored in the clay pot would not lose their effects. This inconspicuous clay pot was actually a spiritual magic treasure, but using it to store top-grade spiritual tea was overkill. Lu Ping placed the spiritual tea in the clay pot into a jade box, and then put the clay pot into his storage ring. At the same time, he pondered about other uses for the clay pot. After taking away everything that could be taken away, Lu Ping walked out of the attic and continued to walk towards the most central palace of the cave mansion. That should be the most important place in this cave mansion. At this moment, rumbling sounds of magic spells breaking restrictions could be heard coming from other directions. However, the rumbling sounds were only coming from two directions. Other than Qiao Weijie and Han Fei's violent method of breaking restrictions, the interval between Qian Shu and Yang Sanyang's rhythmic method of releasing magic spells had suddenly become longer. Moreover, the speed at which these two people were advancing had become much faster. Now they were already in front of Qiao Weijie and Yang Sanyang. Previously, there had been no sound coming from Immortal Shui Xiu's direction. The closer they were to the central palace, the more difficult it was to break the restriction traps set up by Qinji and Laozu. Although Lu Ping guessed that Immortal Shui Xiu was proficient in breaking formations and restrictions, it was impossible for him to use magic spells to forcibly break the restrictions. Now that the restrictions had become more complicated, Immortal Shui Xiu's journey was smooth sailing. Therefore, the only possibility was that Reverend Shui Xiu had already joined forces with Qian Shu and Yang Sanyang. This was also the reason why the speed of breaking the restrictive spells in the direction of Qian Shu and Yang Sanyang had caught up and surpassed Qiao Weijie and Yang Sanyang. Moreover, the interval between the sounds of magic spells breaking the restrictive spells had also lengthened. Thinking of this, Lu Ping instructed Samling and Cyan Wan to pay attention to the counterattack of the restrictions in the surroundings. Then, he wielded the golden scale sword and slashed in the direction of the central palace. When one's swordsmanship was cultivated to an extremely high level, there was a saying, "No matter how many formations you have, I will only slash them with one sword." There was even an exaggerated title, "One sword to break all things." Legend had it that among the seventh patriarch of the heaven-splitting sect, Peng Laozu had the highest cultivation level, but Laozu had mastered the supreme magical power of one sword to break all things. He had suppressed Hu Laozu and Yuan Laozu, who had the same cultivation level as Laozu, and ranked second among the seventh patriarch of the heaven-splitting sect. Even though Laozu was also proficient in swordsmanship, he could only surpass Jiao Laozu by relying on the seven thunder gem gourd in his hand. Lu Ping's sword slash did not have the elegance of one sword to break all things, but these restriction techniques were also far from reaching the level of thousands of formations. Therefore, within a distance of 200 feet in front of Lu Ping, all the restrictions and traps were completely destroyed by the golden scale sword. However, the subsequent counterattack of the restrictions was also blocked by Samling and Cyan Wan. However, these four immortal demon cultivators were thrown into confusion by the joint counterattack of dozens of restrictions. Cyan Wan lost a dozen feathers, and Samling was also in an extremely miserable state. Many of the scales on his body were damaged, and dark red blood seeped out. It was as if he had absolute confidence in Samling. Lu Ping wasn't the only one who didn't make a move. Even the azure phoenix circling above the three spirits was carefully scanning its surroundings with its sharp eyes, as if it was on guard against something. It didn't do anything to help the three spirits below. Debao was even faster. When Lu Ping's sword slashed down, the restriction on the ground seemed to have been cut open by the golden scale sword. Debao had already taken the opportunity to plunge into the ground, and no one knew where he went. The roars of the battle in the distance became more intense. At this time, not only was Qiao Weijie roaring, but enlightened Master Shui Xiu was also shouting. Standing in front of Samling, Lu Ping still didn't move. His eyes flashed with a green light from time to time, and his mind was constantly observing the surroundings. The situation of Samling and the others was actually under Lu Ping's observation. However, at some point, a small gourd with a dense aura appeared above his head. The green light suddenly converged from Lu Ping's eyes. The gourd above his head spun rapidly, and a burst of electric light flashed on the surface of the gourd. Then, the electric light that had been brewing for a long time shot out from the gourd, falling on the ground around Lu Ping and Sam Ling. Countless electric lights flickered, forming a sea of thunder and lightning around Lu Ping and the others. Een thunder of gung metal, een thunder of een wood, een thunder of een water, een thunder of een earth, een ice, een thunder of een wind. At this moment, the Thunder 7 Treasures calabash finally revealed its ferocious appearance in the cultivation world. This treasure, once known as the number 1 divine artifact in the cultivation world, was now far less powerful than when Ping Laozu split the world apart, but how could the title of the number 1 divine artifact be undeserved? Even though the Een Thunder of Een Third Fire had not been formed due to the lack of 3 fire attribute natural wonders, the Thunder 7 Treasures calabash still had a long way to go before reaching minor success. Its current power was enough. Lu Ping stood in the middle of the sea of thunder and lightning. Small figures like the one that had attacked Lu Ling earlier screamed in the sea of thunder and lightning. Their bodies were entangled by the electric light, and they fell to the ground, twitching in all kinds of strange ways. Their screams were interrupted as soon as they could be heard. The Thunder 7 Treasures calabash was like a child that had obtained a treasure and needed to show off. After scattering the 6 electric lights around it, it happily jumped twice above Lu Ping's head. Satisfied, it disappeared into the sky and was put back into the core space by Lu Ping. The lightning in the surroundings disappeared, leaving only 12 twitching figures on the ground. 8 of them had already been killed by the 7 Treasures Lightning Calabash's 6 lightning attribute minor magical abilities. The remaining 4 figures also had all kinds of strange injuries on their bodies. After the thunder and lightning dissipated, the 4 seriously injured figures had a look of fear on their faces. They struggled to stand up and seemed to want to escape. The Azure Phoenix let out a crisp cry and flapped its wings. Another sea of fire swept out. 4 screams of despair rang out, and the 8 corpses on the ground were turned to ashes by Lu Qina's Samadhi True Fire. Lu Ping helplessly looked at Lu Qina, who was hovering proudly above his head. With this method of killing, he wouldn't be able to obtain any spoils of war in the end. Just as Lu Qina was circling above everyone's heads, and just as she turned around, a figure that looked exactly the same as before suddenly appeared behind Lu Qina, with a ruthless expression on his face. He threw out a shimmering water rope towards Lu Qina's neck. Mid-core forging stage? Lu Ping looked at the figure that was in a sorry state. It was obvious that the figure had escaped from the Thunder 7 Treasures calabash and Lu Qina's Samadhi True Fire. He couldn't help but frown. These things really wouldn't rest until they were dead. Even in this situation, they still risked their lives to attack. Just as the water rope whip was about to tighten around Lu Qina's neck, a broken flag suddenly appeared above Lu Qina's head. The flag shook and a wave suddenly surged out, firmly blocking the water rope whip. The cultivator holding the water rope whip was surprised. The soft water rope whip suddenly turned into a long spear and stabbed towards Lu Qina again. However, the broken flag shook again and another wave surged out, blocking the water spear outside Lu Qina's body. The short minor repairs cultivator turned around and saw the smiling Lu Ping. He immediately realized that everything was caused by the human in front of him. His ferocious expression made it seem as if he wanted to eat someone. He opened his mouth and let out a mournful roar. The water spear in his hand turned into a huge ghost head water blade and chopped down towards Lu Ping's head. However, the short minor repairs cultivator had only just leapt into the air when his ferocious expression suddenly froze. Next, a look of disbelief appeared on his face. Lowering his head, he saw that a sword had pierced a large hole through his chest. Blood flowed out like clear water from the wound. Behind the short minor repairs cultivator, the dark blue Netheraqua sword disappeared once more and the short minor repairs cultivator fell to the ground. This time, the Cyan Phoenix had learned its lesson. It unleashed a mouthful of flames to incinerate the cultivator on the ground into a clump of thick white smoke. However, the clump of flowing water formed from the large blade was not incinerated. Lu Ping held the clump of flowing water in his hand and examined it carefully. A look of interest appeared on his face. The clump of flowing water rolled back and forth in Lu Ping's palm and changed into various shapes. Although it was only a magic treasure that had condensed 3 treasures, it had many wonderful uses. Lu Ping glanced at Lu Hai, who had a longing look on his face, and could not help but laugh. This magic treasure looked gorgeous, but it was actually not very helpful to Lu Ping. So, he handed the water-like magic treasure to Lu Hai to refine. Seeing Lu Hai excitedly turn the clump of flowing water into a long halberd that was almost twice his height, Lu Ping shook his head and smiled bitterly. After all, he was still a child. Compared to a magic treasure, Lu Hai was more willing to see the clump of flowing water as a toy. An ice azura appeared on Frost Island, and then a water azura appeared inexplicably in this cave mansion. The situation in the world of cultivation is really getting more and more chaotic. Lu Ping knew that when the ice azura was first discovered on Frost Island, even his master, Tianling, Laozu, did not look very good at that time. The blood condensation disciples on Frost Island did not even know what an azura was. Most of the core forging realm cultivators, such as Lu Ping, only knew about it at that time, and were warned by their respective sect masters not to spread this matter. Including the one that attacked Lu Ling at the beginning, a total of 14 water azuras appeared. 8 of them were equivalent to the blood condensation realm water azuras, and 1 of the 5 were equivalent to the core forging realm water azuras. 1 of them was killed by the Samling, and the other 4 were seriously injured by the 7 treasures Thunder Calabash. They were also burned clean by Lu China's Samadhi True Fire. The only core forging realm water azura sneakily attacked Lu China, but it was also killed by the prepared Lu Ping. Lu Ping listened to the sporadic sounds of fighting from the other 2 directions. He knew that the water shura, like the ice shura, had a kind of innate ability that made it difficult for a cultivator's divine sense to detect them. The water shura that besieged the other 2 cultivators must have realized that they couldn't take them down by force, so they resorted to guerrilla warfare. The ice shura and water shura's relentless fighting style was the real headache. Xiao Weijie, Shui Xiu, and the others were obviously being held back by the water shura. Lu Ping immediately snickered in his heart. It's not that I, Junling, want to take everything for myself. It's your own incompetence. Don't blame me for this. Lu Ping's eyes shone with green light again. He looked at the pool in front of him, and then he seemed to find something. His footsteps paused for a moment, but he still walked toward the central palace in front of him. Chapter 434. Lu Ping had just walked past the small pool in front of the central palace when his divine thoughts suddenly relaxed. Lu Ping's heart tightened. From the small pool to the central palace, there was no longer any obstruction. Thinking of the sudden appearance of the water shura just now, these things obviously could not have come from the outside like they did. There was only one possibility: the group of water shura had directly entered the cave residence. Lu Ping looked back at the small pool behind him again. Just now, when Lu Ping used his divine thoughts to explore, he discovered that the small pool, which was only a few dozen feet in radius, was actually bottomless. Even with Lu Ping's divine thoughts, it was difficult to find out where the small pool led to. Could it be that this group of water shura appeared from the small pool? Lu Ping stepped into the central palace with doubts. Although he had previously used his divine thoughts to explore, at this time in the palace the things in the palace had already been looted by the water shura, and it was impossible for there to be any more gains, but Lu Ping still could not help but come to have a look. Just as Lu Ping stepped into the central palace, the fighting sounds from the other 2 directions suddenly changed direction. Lu Ping paused at the entrance of the main hall. Only then did he realize that Shui Xiu, Qian Shu, and Yang San'an were blocking the sneak attack of the water shura while moving in the direction of Xiao Weijie and the others. A moment later, Xiao Weijie and Han Fei also seemed to notice something and moved in the direction of Shui Xiu and the others. This Han Fei seems to be not stupid, Lu Ping thought to himself. As for Xiao Weijie, Lu Ping did not think that such a person would have such a brain. But in the eyes of Shui Xiu and the others, he did not know who came up with this idea. But in the eyes of Lu Ping, among the three of them, besides young Sanyang who was foppish, Shui Xiu was smart, and Qian Shu who looked simple and honest was also a fox inside. Either one of them could have come up with this idea. The combined strength of the five of them should be more than enough to fend off the water Shura. However, with the water Shura's low intelligence and its relentless nature, it would not be easy for the five of them to completely get rid of it. The central palace was already in a mess. Even though Lu Ping had noticed it in advance, he was still quite discouraged when he saw the scene. Lu Ping wandered around the palace and found the place where Lao Zu usually used to practice. The rich spiritual energy clearly told Lu Ping that this was the place where the whole cave residents gathered of the spiritual veins. Lu Ping roughly felt the concentration of the spiritual energy in this place. It was about 5 small spiritual veins. Lu Ping smiled in his heart and stamped his foot. A blue light immersed into the ground. Lu Ping waited for a moment, but there was no movement from the ground. Lu Ping felt a little strange. He stamped his foot again and a blue light more intense than before entered the ground, but Debao still did not come out of the ground. Lu Ping's expression changed, and he was about to walk out of the palace. But just as Lu Ping was about to leave the secret cultivation room, his body paused, as if he thought of something. He immediately turned around and carefully searched the cultivation room. Speaking of which, there was nothing special in Patriarch Clearstream's cultivation room. There was a praying mat used for meditation and a low wooden table with a teapot and teacups on it. There were no decorations around the cultivation room. Clearly, Patriarch Clearstream's cultivation room was similar to that of most cultivators, maintaining a simple and painstaking cultivation style. Lu Ping's divine telekinesis was constantly searching for something in the cultivation room. Finally, his eyes were fixed on the futon on the cultivation platform. The futon was clearly a top-grade magic artifact embedded with a spirit-gathering array. It was a good auxiliary artifact for cultivation. Lu Ping's own cultivation room had a similar auxiliary magic artifact. Lu Ping held the futon in his hand and carefully inspected it. His eyes flashed with cyan light. He lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then, a palm flashing with blue light struck the surface of the futon. The spirit-gathering array engraved on the surface of the futon collapsed, and the surface of the top-grade magic artifact was instantly torn apart. Lu Ping shook the futon in his hand and the broken pieces of the futon fell to the ground. A small stone tablet, around 1 foot in length, was revealed. The stone tablet was engraved with 3 bold and powerful words, Clear River Prefecture. Lu Ping chuckled and held the stone tablet in his hand. He activated the real elemental energy in his body, and a blue light overflowed from his palm. It extended towards the small stone tablet from top to bottom. When the small stone tablet was completely soaked in the blue light of Lu Ping's real elemental energy, the entire central palace suddenly trembled. Then, everything returned to normal. The blue light on the stone tablet immediately converged and the surface of the stone tablet returned to its original appearance. Lu Ping stood in the training room and stamped his foot again. After a while, Debao really drilled out from the ground. He looked at Lu Ping and barked twice unhappily. Then, he spat out 3 miniature spirit-gathering pearls with a disdainful expression on his face. It was as if he was saying that such a cave with such a long history and a Dharma manifestation stage cultivator, Lao Zu, only had 5 small spirit veins and only a few spirit-gathering pearls. Lu Ping did not have time to deal with Debao. He waved his hand and kept the 3 miniature spirit-gathering pearls. At the same time, the ones who ran the most were Qiao Weijie and Yang Sanyang. As Qiao Weijie ran, he was still urging them. Hurry, hurry, or the treasures inside will be taken away by the people of Jinling. Although Yang Sanyang did not say anything, his feet ran even faster. Qian Shu and Han Fei were both a little helpless. Shui Xiuzhenren looked at the small pool in front of the palace discreetly, then followed the others into the palace. Just as Lu Ping finished carving the last talisman of the traction matrix on the ground, Xiao Weijie had already found the entrance to the training room. Seeing that Lu Ping was here, he immediately said angrily, "Lu, where are the treasures in this palace? You, Zhenling, want to take all the treasures for yourself. Aren't you afraid of being stuffed to death?" As Xiao Weijie spoke, he flashed a magic weapon in his hand. It seemed that he would immediately start a fight if there was any disagreement. Then, Yang Sanyang also chased after him. Without saying anything, he immediately took out a magic weapon that looked like a jade ruler and stood beside Xiao Weijie. However, he looked much more embarrassed. Yang Sanyang was the only early-stage core forging cultivator among the group. When they were attacked by Water Azura earlier, Water Azura actually knew that a persimmon should be pinched by the weak, so the first surprise attack was aimed at Yang Sanyang. At this time, Yang Sanyang's appearance was as embarrassing as it could be. His long robe had been pierced by countless holes, blood was oozing from his left arm and right leg, and even his buttocks had been stabbed. Then, Shui Xiuzhenren, Han Fei and Qian Shu also rushed into the secret room. When they saw the situation in the secret room, they did not say anything. When Lu Ping saw that the 5 people had arrived, he slowly stood up and asked Shui Xiuzhenren next to him, "What did Shui Xiuzhenren say?" When Xiao Weijie saw that Lu Ping had turned a blind eye to his words just now, he immediately felt that he was being despised by Lu Ping. His face turned red, and he pointed at Lu Ping and scolded, "Son of AB*TCH, this time, our 4 sects have joined forces to explore this cave mansion. Before coming here, each of us has informed the elders of each sect. You, Zhenling, want to monopolize the treasures in the central palace. Aren't you afraid that the other 3 sects will join forces to condemn you?" Lu Ping's knife-like gaze forced Xiao Weijie to not dare to look directly at him. The words that came out of his mouth were also fearful, but he did not want to show his timidity in front of Lu Ping, so he insisted on finishing his words. However, in the ears of the others, Xiao Weijie's voice, which was previously aggressive, was getting softer and softer, even becoming weak. Yang Sanyang, who had been holding the jade ruler tightly, could not help but loosen his grip. He glanced at the Xianling sect cultivator next to him with slight disappointment. Lu Ping still could not be bothered to look at Xiao Weijie. He still looked at Shui Xiuzhenren and said, "Shui Xiuzhenren, do you really have nothing to say?" Shui Xiuzhenren said indifferently, "There is a pile of dust in the central palace. There are no signs of a recent rebellion. Obviously, before Brother Lu came here, this place had already been plundered by someone." Xiao Weijie was stunned when he heard this. Then, his face turned blood red. He turned his head and glared at Shui Xiu, then turned to look at Lu Ping, as if he had suffered a great humiliation. Shui Xiuzhenren, Qian Shu, and Yang Sanyang left Xiao Weijie's side without a trace, leaving Han Fei standing there awkwardly. Xiao Weijie still did not notice it. The atmosphere in the cultivation room became a little subtle. Lu Ping was bold and skillful, so the others did not dare to make the first move. Xiao Weijie originally wanted to instigate the other 2 sects to fight against Lu Ping. He did not expect that Lu Ping would easily resolve the situation. Instead, Xiao Weijie was isolated. After a while, Shui Xiuzhenren broke the silence and said, "There are 6 spirit veins here. Senior Brother Lu has monopolized 2 of the best ones. Isn't this a little unreasonable?" Chapter 435. Lu Ping looked at Dao Master Shui Xiu and said with a smile, "Then according to Fairy's opinion, how should this spirit vein be divided?" Without waiting for Dao Master Shui Xiu to speak, Dao Master Yang Sanyang had already jumped out impatiently and shouted, "That goes without saying. There are a total of 6 people in this cave dwelling this time. Naturally, 1 for each person." As soon as Dao Master Yang Sanyang's voice fell, Dao Master Shui Xiu's expression was rather displeased. Lu Ping still had a faint smile on his face, while Xiao Weijie simply sneered. Han Fei gave down Master Yang Sanang a very strange look. Qian Shu couldn't stand it any more at this time. He pulled on down Master Yang Sanyang's sleeve and coughed, saying, "My CU sect can't compare to the 10 great sections. Us two brothers only need to obtain a small spirit vein." Yang Sanang still had an indignant expression on his face, but was firmly held back by Dao Master Qian Shu. What kind of status did CU sect have that it could actually be mentioned in the same breath as the 10 great sects? Did they think that they could get a bigger share of the loot just because 2 people came this time? Lu Ping didn't need to think to know that if Yang Sanang still didn't know what was good for him and wanted to divide it according to the number of people, then Lu Ping, Xiao Weijie, Shui Xiu, and Han Fei would first join forces to expel these 2 brothers from this underground cave dwelling. The 10 great sects were the true privileged class of the North Sea. Even if Xinling and Xianling's sect fought to the death for the position of overlord of the North Sea, and the other 8 great sects also had their own ulterior motives, the privileges of the 10 great sects in the North Sea still couldn't be challenged by others. The fact that CU sect could participate in the exploration of the cave dwelling this time was already the 10 great sects giving them a way out. If they still didn't know what was good for them and tried in vain to eat more, then Lu Ping and the others would definitely first exclude these 2 people, and then rediscuss the distribution of the 6 spirit veins. Taoist Qian Shu had obviously seen through this, which was why he didn't dare to have the slightest intention of overstepping in front of the 10 great sections. He would first occupy a spirit vein in a well-behaved manner. In this way, with the strength of the 2 core forging Taoist masters of Yuhai sect, they would instead play a very important role in balancing the disciples of Lu Ping and the other great sections. At that time, the role of Yuhai sect would be manifested. Seeing that the Sea Tribulation sect knew when to stop, everyone didn't say anything more. Xiao Weijie said coldly, "Let's give up a spirit vein and divide it again. In this way, we won't hurt the harmony between us. Otherwise, aren't you afraid that Brother Lu will be stuffed after eating too much?" However, before Taoist Yang Sanyang could enjoy the pleasure of killing the enemy, he heard Lu Ping say from behind, "Be careful!" Taoist Yang Sanyang's heart skipped a beat, and he heard Taoist Shui Xiu say urgently, "Be careful, Taoist Yang!" Taoist Yang Sanyang knew something was wrong, and quickly retreated. At the same time, his body burned with 3 different colored flames. Taoist Qian Shu, who was next to him, had yet to retract the tree vines in his hand, and Taoist Xiao Weijie, who was on the other side, was chasing a water shura that he had set his eyes on earlier, and didn't even look at him. Taoist Yang Sanyang was filled with hatred, and the 3-colored flame shield was instantly extinguished by half. A human silhouette appeared, and its 4-foot-long body was holding a magic treasure short sword that flickered with a gloomy light. It stabbed towards Taoist Yang Sanyang's heart. At this moment, Taoist Yang Sanyang had no time to summon a defensive magic treasure, and could only do his best to move his body sideways, hoping that the sword would not stab into his core space. Just as Taoist Yang Sanyang was about to resign himself to his fate, he heard a "piu" sound in front of him. It was very different from the sound of a sharp blade entering a body that Taoist Yang Sanyang usually heard. When Taoist Yang Sanyang looked over, he saw a small wave surging out of thin air in front of his chest. The water shura's sharp blade stabbed into it, but it was firmly blocked and could not go any further. Although Taoist Yang Sanyang was a playboy, he was even more ruthless. Seeing that he had escaped death, he smashed the water shura's head with the jade ruler in front of him into a rotten watermelon with juice splattering everywhere. Taoist Yang Sanyang thought that it was Taoist Shui Xiu who had helped him, and turned to look to thank her. However, he saw Taoist Shui Xiu looking at the top of his head in surprise. When Taoist Yang Sanyang looked up, he saw a small black flag fall into Lu Ping's hands. Taoist Yang Sanyang said in a muffled voice, "Thanks," and ignored Lu Ping. Lu Ping did not mind. On the other side, a water shura that was seriously injured by Xiao Weijie was about to escape when a muffled sound was heard. It was Taoist Han Fei who was suddenly attacked by 2 water shura. Taoist Shui Xiu had only noticed one spot, and Taoist Han Fei was caught off guard by a water Shura's kick that broke his protective upstanding qi. He felt a tightness in his chest and a sweet taste in his throat. He was already injured. Taoist Han Fei tried his best to resist the two water Shuras, but he was in dire straits and was surrounded by danger. Xiao Weijie looked at Han Fei, who was not far away, and shot out 3 flaming blades in a row, but none of them were used to help Han Fei out. The 3 flaming blades formed a triangular shape and killed the severely injured water Shura. When he turned around to help Han Fei, he saw that Taoist Shui Xiu had already helped Han Fei out of the siege of the 2 water Shuras. When Xiao Weijie saw that Han Fei was fine, he turned around to look at the water Shura that he had killed. The water Shura's body had turned into a pool of clear water and seeped into the ground, leaving behind a glowing luminous pearl on the ground. It was obviously not an ordinary item. Xiao Weijie was delighted and wanted to pick up the pearl on the ground, but he did not notice that Taoist Han Fei, who had temporarily repelled the attack of the water Shura with the help of Taoist Shui Xiu, was looking at Xiao Weijie's back with a hint of dissatisfaction. However, just as Xiao Weijie was about to pick up the pearl on the ground left behind by the water Shura, the ground where the pearl was located suddenly cracked open. The pearl rolled into the crack, and then the crack on the ground closed again as Xiao Weijie roared angrily. Lu Ping, who was standing in the middle of his cultivation, could not help but smile when he saw Taoist Xiao Weijie angrily smashing 3 large pits on the ground. At this moment, Taoist Shui Xiu seemed to have thought of something and said anxiously, "Oh no, these water Shura probably came out from the small pool in front of the palace. If that's the case, we can't stay here any longer. There are more and more opponents on our side. We should first divide the 4 spiritual veins that have not been engraved with the traction formation. Otherwise, when more water Shura come, we will only die here, and then we won't even get this little benefit." How could Xiao Weijie agree? He was about to refuse, but he saw that Taoist Han Fei had already placed a traction formation plate on one of the spiritual veins and engraved a traction formation leading to the Flying Feather sect. After Taoist Han Fei finished engraving, he took over Taoist Shui Xiu's place to resist the water Shura's attack. Taoist Shui Xiu glanced at Lu Ping, who was helping the others to resist the water Shura from time to time. She saw Lu Ping turn his head and smile at her. Taoist Shui Xiu also chose a spiritual vein to place the traction formation and formation plate, but she knew in her heart that she was no match for this Jinling disciple from the beginning to the end. This time, Jinling had the upper hand again. The traction formation for the Cu sect's spiritual veins was engraved by Taoist Yang Sanyang. Xiao Weijie originally wanted to take advantage of Xianling sect's status to share a portion of Lu Ping's spiritual veins equally, but in the end, no one had the time to support him. He had no choice but to reluctantly engrave the traction formation on the last remaining spiritual vein. However, he already had the urge to curse in his heart. Because of the previous people's selection, when it came to Xiao Weijie, the last remaining spiritual vein was dry and astringent. After Xianling sect drew it back, they would have to spend a large amount of money to nourish it before it could be used. Otherwise, this spiritual vein might be wasted or reduced to a mini-spiritual vein. Xiao Weijie was just about to open his mouth to question when he saw Lu Ping and the others suddenly break out of the palace in unison. If Xiao Weijie delayed any longer, he might be abandoned by the others and would have to face the water Shura's siege alone. Xiao Weijie's face alternated between red and light. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth, but he didn't dare to slow down at all. After he finished engraving the traction formation, he hurriedly placed the formation plate and rushed towards the others. On the surface of the sea, the people who had finally broken out of the water Shura's siege released a sound-transmitting magic sword to their respective sects, and immediately went their separate ways. Lu Ping also released 2 sound-transmitting magic swords to Jinling. One was directed to Shuelan Palace on Huanyu Island, which was the closest to this place, and the other was directed in the direction of Huangli Island. However, after everyone had left, Lu Ping made a big circle on the surface of the sea. After confirming that no one was following him, he once again snuck back into Lao Tzu's cave abode in the clear stream. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.